hid his weed under his balls and smoked his own ball sweat for 30 years. I couldn't even come up with a metaphor that describes him more accurately than this anecdote. It explains so much about him and his brain. Now, I'm really glad I watched the previous special. Something told me, maybe it was God. But 15 minutes into Is Anybody Seeing This, Bill Maher repeats a joke from #adulting pretty much word for word.
Columbus had slaves. So did everyone in 1492 who could afford it, including people of color in other parts of the world. Applause for that? George Washington had slaves. Yeah, so did everybody back then, including people of color in other parts of the world. We're not applauding slavery, are we?
Nothing like recycling your own material 3 years later. That must feel fucking awesome to get away with. Is he just so old he forgot he already told that joke? Or is he just that fucking creatively bankrupt? I guarantee all of these jokes have basically been repeated over and over again on his travesty of an HBO show.
As a black friend of mine said, and I quote, "I'm doing aight."
And then he starts justifying slavery because he, of course, has to do that. I think that's in his contract. To justify George Washington owning slaves, he says, well, everybody did it back then, which is not true. Not everybody took the teeth of their slaves to use as their own teeth either. George Washington did that. Not everybody did that, but George Washington did do that. Oh, don't cancel George Washington. He only had slave teeth. What did you want him to use? Lamb teeth? That was my Bill Maher impression. I didn't really like it. Like the idea that everybody had slaves back then, that's like baby's first history lesson. That's like what my first grade teacher told me to make me feel better. But I guess Bill thinks it's a real intellectual argument or a joke. Slavery wasn't that bad, everyone was doing it, and that makes it better. He also references other historic examples of mass slavery.
But it's just something everybody did. The Greeks did it, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Arabs, the British, all the way up to P. Diddy.
Which is such a dishonest and ahistorical comparison to chattel slavery, and we're not even 5 minutes in. I'm pissed off, Bill. I'm getting mad. And I'm turning into She-Hulk. How do you like that? She-Hulk's trans now. The transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery were so uniquely cruel and exploitative that there's just no comparison to any other form of mass enslavement in history. The concepts of race and color as social construct came from the pseudo-scientific justification of colonizers and genociders. Something you'll notice, though, about Bill Maher is that he's not much of a history buff. He doesn't really know any of it. So now Bill's complaining about drag queens, the biggest threat facing American society today.
We like drag queens. They're good people. Okay, but can we never get real? This whole thing, I feel like, is much more for the adults than it is for the kids. And I think that the kids are really hurt by it. But do we really need to be loud and proud with 5-year-olds? I mean, is it really so hard in this country just to not be exotic?
What I love about this part is that Bill Maher literally stomps his little old man foot on the stage while talking about queer people being too exotic. He's like a big, giant, old baby.
Where are my unexciting people? Where are they? For the unremarkable of us in the world, you know?
This is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard Bill Maher say. He is not uninteresting. He doesn't even believe that. He's just saying he's normal in different words, and queer people aren't. Bill is not uninteresting. He's a 70-year-old multi-millionaire comedian and actor who does a bunch of drugs and has no kids or family. Bill Maher is Leisure Suit Larry, the little pervert trying to get laid in the video game. And personally, I find that very interesting. Uninteresting is just not the right word here. Maybe if he said unfunny, he'd be right. Then he praises the opportunity to not have to wear masks anymore.
I must say, what a pleasure it is after 2 years of having to hear laughs through masks. Bad for comedy. To now see these beautiful faces. If you still have a mask, I completely respect that. I think you're a fucking idiot, but I completely respect it. And that's my thing about, you know, who has the mask. It's Gen Z. It's like, who do I see walking outside alone with the mask on? What a bunch of pussies that generation is.
Again, I'm really glad I watched all of his last special because they only show the audience at the very end of that special, and no one is wearing masks. What the fuck, Bill? It's been 3 years in between these specials. What year do you think it is? I mean, my guess is that he's just still reusing old jokes.
The whole thing was so surreal, the way we went mental for 2 years and then just suddenly, boom, just right back to
Man, guys, come on. Wasn't it crazy living through COVID?
I went to Cirque du Soleil in Vegas like less than a year ago. There's little people flying all over the stage. They're 100 feet in the air, no net. 2 of them had masks on, I swear to God.
Oh, I'm Bill Maher. I saw Cirque du Soleil and they had masks on. They never wear masks as part of the fucking show. He's literally a triggered snowflake. But of course, he gets triggered over stuff that right-wingers also get triggered about, so it doesn't count. You're not triggered if you have continuous, repetitive, unfunny meltdowns over masks or hating transgender people. Bill Maher then lists the reasons he's not a Republican.
I'm not a Republican for all the reasons I never have been before. They're too religious.
Too religious. Meanwhile, almost every single Democrat is a Christian. Joe Biden was a Catholic. I mean, we know he's not psyched about having Muslim representatives, so I don't really know what he likes about the Democrats in this regard.
80% of Democrats in Congress are Christian, and 78% of Democratic governors. You can look this shit up, you know.
I guess he just doesn't like the fundamentalist Christians, which I guess same.
They're fiscal hypocrites who absolutely hate it when America spends money it doesn't have, except when they're in office.
Oh, thank God we got someone fucking speaking on the real issues, finally. The biggest problem with the Republican Party is that they don't pay into the national debt. Yeah, it's kind of just like if you're a person. You can't spend more money than you don't have. Bill Maher says that Republicans are in denial about racism.
They're in denial about racism, which is still a thing.
It's still a thing. It's still a hashtag thing. It's awesome because Democrats are not in denial about racism. They're very conscious of it, but they're also extremely unwilling to do anything about it.
They think climate change is a hoax and the weather girl's tits are real.
I always forget that Bill Maher believes in climate change because you think with what he says about almost everything else that he just wouldn't. It's just a weird holdover from the early 2000s. A lot of people who gained success in that time, especially in the political sphere, talked a lot about climate change and of course did nothing about it. Also his joke about like they think the weather girl's tits are real, that's just gross. I feel like Bill Maher just wanted an excuse to say tits or talk about tits or just be like a creepy guy. Bill Maher is not a Republican because they blame the underprivileged instead of the overprivileged.
And they're always blaming the underprivileged when they should be blaming the overprivileged. And then they...
Which Bill Maher also does all the time in the case of trans people, Palestinians.
You don't realize that college campuses erupted with the kids demonstrating for Hamas? They are in with the terrorists.
They were for the Palestinians.
Well, it's sort of the same cause. Why, are you?
I'm on the side of the kids.
But Bill Maher is different because he is the center of the universe and can never be wrong about anything. Forgot about that part.
Don't tell me the left hasn't changed. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
This is such a new and weird genre of comedy that kind of only Bill Maher does. Bill Maher and like other Zionist weirdos like Michael Rappaport, who I wouldn't even call a comedian, about how, oh, the left wing hates Jews. The left is terrorists now. The left is like Arab terrorists. It used to be the right wing hated the Jews. I guess according to Bill, they don't anymore. They got over it. He laughs so hard at this, and it's just sad. He's so lost. He's so out of touch. He says he's tired of extremes and extremists.
That's my constituency. People who are just tired of the extremes, as I have. Tired of the extremes and the extremists who control the debate but don't represent not close to a majority.
Even though there are right-wing extremists in the government right now, don't be extreme in your response to that. Please, be nice to them. He says he's tired of Trump. He's tired of a lot of things. He's really old. And he says he's done all the Trump material he has in the first term.
But I am not looking forward to Trump, too, because I already did all the jokes.
Which is a flat-out lie, because he immediately jumps into a long joke about Trump getting shot at.
Walk me through how you could stage a bullet hitting just the tip of your ear from 500 feet away. Yeah, shoot it in my head.
I'm skipping through. This fucking special sucks. Bill Maher's glasses aren't even on all the way. He says the reason Trump does better with immigrants is because Democrats aren't pro-America enough.
Why does Trump keep doing better each time with immigrants? That's pretty amazing, and I think I know why. It's because liberals don't really look like they like America, and immigrants don't like the relentless negativity about a country they work so hard to get to.
Sorry, Madam President, I have a Glock wasn't fucking pro-America enough for you, apparently.
I have a Glock, and I've had it for quite some time.
Especially in the wake of the Trump inauguration, what are we pro-America about right now, Bill? He says no one gets canceled for being too woke, which is how you get a man being pregnant. A man can be pregnant. You can get a man pregnant.
This is one of the problems I think we have in this country. Nobody ever gets canceled for being too woke. That's how you get things like men can get pregnant. And everybody's like, yeah, absolutely.
Which is funny because this is really close to that Joe Rogan bit about the pregnant man emoji. Oh, men pregnant. Get men pregnant. Get men pregnant. Plagiarism is not a victimless crime, Bill. Also, what the fuck do you want? Do you want to cancel trans men for getting pregnant? Yeah, you want to still have a kid? You're fucking canceled, you idiot. You should have thought about what if Bill Maher didn't like it. Then he starts ranting about how they canceled Dr. Seuss, which they didn't.
They went after Dr. Seuss. Yes, that Dr. Seuss, author of Green Eggs and Ham and other controversial works. Why? Because when he was drawing in the 1930s, he drew Chinese people with pigtails.
It's blatant Fox News propaganda.
Dr. Seuss is now considered a racist.
This is Rupert Murdoch's diarrhea. You're slurping it up, Bill. Stop that. I don't feel like people canceled Dr. Seuss. If anything, people popularized the story of his evolution as a person, having overcome his prejudices and publicly gone back on what he had believed in the past. It's a good example of how over time people can change and evolve and become better when they aren't stubborn, entitled, elitist creeps like Bill. That's who I was talking about there. He says you're not supposed to say homeless anymore.
Homeless. You're not supposed to say that word anymore. It's people experiencing homelessness.
This is made up. It's completely made up, and yet I keep hearing it. Shut up. Stop saying this. Homeless people live on the street. They literally don't care what you call them, and neither does anybody else. Put them in a house. Give them a house. Bill starts ranting about how liberals actually want to fix homelessness by getting them off the street, which is really vague. I don't like that. But the woke people want to let them sit in the street and sleep in the street because it's against the Constitution to rip up their tents and throw away all their belongings. As much as Bill Maher and liberals like him want to, you can't just throw homeless people away like they're garbage. And the fact is, these policies don't work. The data shows that they do more to perpetuate homelessness and further perpetuate their poverty. It's insane because no one woke wants homelessness to just be left alone. I mean, I personally think the government should be using eminent domain to seize hotels and apartment buildings for housing every homeless person that wants shelter. But then someone like Bill would call me Stalin for fixing the problem. No, actually, never mind. You're right, Bill. Maybe if the homeless get arrested for sleeping on a park bench with a bar in the middle of it to make it more uncomfortable, then they'll finally start choosing to live in a home. We have to spare Hilton Corporation and BlackRock from the big scary government. Can't go too far left. That's just as bad as going too far right. Bill says it's bad enough that they took away the R word.
It's bad enough they took away the R word, which is so desperately needed because this country is so R.
This is just such twisted framing from this little weasel. Bill, you can say the R word all you want. No one's stopping you. You're not going to get arrested. You're not going to get fined. You won't face any legal consequences. I mean, Elon Musk regularly says it directly to people who call him out. What Bill is actually describing is his own fear of the repercussions of saying the R word. He can say it, but people can say some things in return, and they can cut off deals with him, and they can not renew contracts with him. It makes you look like a bad person, kind of rightfully so. Cancel culture isn't fucking real, but regardless, Bill Maher is a coward because he can't do the mental gymnastics for everything else he's loudly stubborn about for a slur. Then he makes a reservation joke that is so bad the audience literally pauses because no one realizes he just told a joke.
You're not supposed to say reservation. I guess that's offensive to Indians. But what are you supposed to say when you go out to dinner?
This is just so fucking lazy. Now Bill Maher's talking about Mr. Beast.
You know Mr. Beast, the YouTuber, he puts on these amazing stunts, very often for charity. And he did one last year called Cured 1,000 People of Disability.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect this at all. Mr. Beast, Bill Maher is talking about the curing the blind discourse that followed one of Mr. Beast's very popular videos. This is like years old discourse by now. I don't understand why Bill Maher is suddenly chiming in.
The Washington Post guy said, what needs curing is society's view of the disabled. And BuzzFeed agreed. They said, Mr. Beast seems to regard disability as something that needs to be solved. Okay, people. Do you see what I'm talking about with the crazy? Please, is anyone else seeing this?
Bill Maher does not believe in Jesus, but he does believe in Mr. Beast, and everyone should follow Mr. Beast and beg him to cure their disorders and ailments. Sorry, that's just a joke of mine. I'm sliding that in there. Let me know how you feel about all my jokes in the comments, please. Then Bill Maher goes like feral, bringing up an article challenging the idea of separating men and women's sports.
The Atlantic put out a cover story last year called Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense. Yes, it fucking does. It makes perfect sense.
He's got that Joe Biden anxious dog wide-eyed stare. I can't tell if he's like really angry about the sanctity of sports or does he just look like that? Girls have cooties, okay? Don't know if you've ever been checked out for them, but maybe you should, you stupid piece of shit. I don't know if I can nail the Bill Maher impression, I'm gonna be honest. It's kind of cool that Bill Maher has no skills or life experience or education or specialization at all. So half the time he's just assuming authority on shit he has no clue about. He was raised in 1946 and they did it right back then. And I don't think Bill Maher even played any sports. I don't think Bill Maher likes watching sports. When I was in high school, boys and girls played sports in PE all together, from volleyball to basketball to baseball. And when I played water polo in high school, we did scrimmage matches with both girls and boys teams. Co-ed sports are super common, and it's really weird to get super upset about it. Again, as a weird old man who's never played sports and doesn't really like them. If Bill was talking about sports in any other context, he'd probably be making a joke about how all sports fans are dumb Trump supporters that love football. Then Bill says children are too validated these days because they're treated like their thoughts are just as valid as adults.
We raise kids wrong, like they're just shorter adults, always blowing smoke up their little asses and calling them tiny geniuses, telling them their thoughts are just as valid as the adults. They're not. They're children. They're stupid like dogs.
Bill Maher has no children and is never married. Can't imagine why. But apparently he's a goddamn child psychiatrist all of a sudden. Wow, he must be so smart. This guy fucking knows everything. What he's saying, by the way, is the complete opposite of what child psychiatrists actually say. But it's okay, because Bill Maher knows better than they do, clearly. One of Bill Maher's examples of bad kid behavior is when he goes to his friend's house and the kids try to participate in the conversation.
I'm in people's houses that do sometimes, and I see this all the time. Kids as young as 10 will invite themselves into the adult conversations, and no one stops it.
How can you even say this and say it's a joke? This is a scam. This isn't jokes. This is a trick. These people should get their money back. HBO should get all of their money back for every special they've ever produced for him.
And then the kids get out and they're like, there's no good jobs. Yeah, because you majored in queer poetry of the Asian diaspora. Of course there's no jobs.
No one tell Bill what it's like to get a job with a computer science degree out of college. Everyone said learn to code, and yet they won't hire you as a janitor without 7 years of experience in a shipped product with your name on it. At least if you took gay Asian poetry, you'd have a good time getting your degree and become like a more well-read, well-rounded person. But instead, a bunch of STEM majors graduate college, can't get a job, and start a fucking meme coin instead. No, America on top. We're doing great. I wonder how Bill Maher knows what college kids are like these days, because I doubt he knows anyone under the retirement age. But it's actually hard for tons of college graduates to get a job right now because America is dying. Blaming the degrees people choose is the stupidest argument in the world, because half the people who get bachelor's degrees don't even work in related fields. They just get one because you usually have to for most jobs. But that's probably nothing. It's the kids these days and their gay poetry. They won't stop majoring in gay poetry, and that's how you become homeless.
You went to a 4-year daycare center for the cry bullies of the privileged to complain about privilege. That is when you weren't protesting for terrorist organizations. Really?
And all he has to say is, really?
Really?
Hamas destroyed. Argument obliviated. College liberals disintegrated. This is always where Bill Maher gets real nasty with it. He hates college student protesters for Gaza, almost as much as he hates victims of sexual harassment.
It's like rooting for the planes on 9/11. I say that's like rooting for the planes on 9/11. I know you'd agree with it if you just gave it a minute. I know it's kind of shocking at first.
This is insane because Bill actually literally had his show Politically Incorrect canceled in 2002 for calling the 9/11 attackers braver than the American military.
He made this infamous comment less than a week after 9/11.
We have been the cowards, lobbing cruise missiles from 2,000 miles away. That's cowardly.
That is a
Staying in the airplane when it hits the building. Say what you want about it, not coward.
But you know, kids these days, they hate America. 9/11 might have been the last time Bill Maher said anything close to the truth. But of course, he immediately walked it back and praised the American military, which is really gross. No, guys, you don't get it. I love when we fire missiles. That's cool. He then tells all these student protesters for Palestine to go take a gap year in Iran.
Hey kids, I have a great idea for you. Since you love Hamas and Hezbollah so much, why don't you next year take your gap year in Iran? No, you're gonna dig it. You will dig it.
Which is great that Bill has so little to say about Gaza. He just cuts straight to the real issue, which is a completely different country. And honestly, Iran couldn't be less relevant to the college student protesters. Funding Hamas is not the worst thing the Iranian government does. I'll be honest. They do way worse shit than that. And coincidentally aligning on this one issue has nothing to do with the rest of the Iranian government's politics. It's just a stupid, dishonest argument that comes from propaganda. Then he makes the classic joke, you know, queers for Palestine.
Make sure to bring your Queers for Palestine t-shirt. They're very popular over there. And if you see the Ayatollah, tell him your pronouns. He loves that.
I can't believe how much of this material is just not new. Whether he said it before or someone else has said it before, this is just not, these aren't his jokes. This is a trick. This guy hates cancel culture, by the way, apparently, while trying to cancel some of the most progressive young people in America and trying to ruin their futures and get them kicked out of colleges. It makes it even weirder when you realize that many of the student protesters are Jewish themselves, but then it's seen as totally acceptable to systematically target them when they speak out about Palestine. It's weird to me. That's weird. Now Bill's whining about how they don't talk about how gender confirmation surgery is dangerous. No one's talking about this.
And they are kind of cavalier, are they not, about gender reassignment and make it sound like so simple and easy. Cut one off, snap one on. I mean, no, it's not. It's a major medical intervention that's going to affect your health for the rest of your life.
He says it's a major medical intervention. Yeah, no shit, Bill. No one's hiding that information from anybody. You stupid old raisin. Then he starts deliberating on, I guess, how crazy bottom surgery is.
We just gloss over this. You know that when they give you a penis you were not born with, I'm not mocking this or making fun of, but they cut the flesh out of your thigh, and forevermore you have a dick-shaped scar. Again, I'm not mocking it. Maybe it's a selling point some places, but
This is not comedy, by the way. You're describing a surgery because you think it's gross and weird. You fucking geriatric. He says he's somehow not mocking it, but he quite literally definitionally is.
I'm not mocking this or making fun of, but
then of course he says it's great to live in a time where transgender people are respected and protected.
We live in a time when trans people can be respected and protected as they should be.
Which is insane to say right after making fun of bottom surgery because you think it's weird. Even insaner right after Trump took office already and immediately banned trans people from the military and banned trans women from sports as far as receiving funding from the federal government. Where are the protections, Bill? You want to point them out to me? He says some of this, I guess, gender madness is a TikTok trend that got out of hand.
It's great we live in a time when trans people can be respected and protected as they should be, but some of this is also just trendy. Some of this is a TikTok challenge that got out of hand. And we are the only country who does it the way we do now.
Transgender is a TikTok trend. Yeah, that's going right in the thumbnail. Fuck you, Bill Maher. He says he identified as a pirate when he was a kid.
I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God they didn't take me seriously and schedule me for eye removal and peg leg surgery.
Which, you know, tracks with the one joke people have. He's basically saying attack helicopter. You always have to compare it to something that's not a gender. A lot of the time people go the transracial argument. Oh, can I change my race if I could change my gender? Which, like, no, that different things are different. But of course, Bill Maher decided to go with the dumbest possible example. Yeah, dude, pirate gender. You really think that's a good fucking comparison? All right, I'm skipping some of this freaking crap. He talks about how he doesn't like 69ing because he can't multitask.
Elbow in the ribs. 69. As if anybody ever did this. It's the MySpace of sex positions. It is the Betamax of fucking, right? I mean, nobody can do it. Everybody thinks they can multitask. They can't. I tried it. I couldn't do it. Are you kidding?
And that's really just one task, so 2 out of 10 on that joke. Oh, now he's back to the kids these days.
Let me just say, let me go back for 1 second to kids, because I've said a lot of bad things about the kids.
He's mad that in TV and movies, parents are too apologetic to kids.
I mean, I see kids in TV and movies, and it's just like the parents always apologizing to the kids. You know, everything, sorry, buddy.
This sounds like you're getting a call from the nursing home. TV these days doesn't have the parent hit the kids anymore. That's ain't how I was raised. The best way I could describe this stand-up special is a scatter shot of, I guess, bitching, sour bitching. 1 minute, Bill's talking about how we never got married.
This may be why I never got married. I don't know, but...
And the next, he's like, I fucking hate hiking.
I went on one hike once. Oh, God, I hated it. Like 20 years ago, I had a girlfriend, had a dog, and I had a dog. She said, let's take the dogs on a hike. Oh, fuck. It was hot and dusty. I hated the other hikers.
Dude, you are the worst. Who thinks this is funny?
Facebook has 56 gender categories. I'm happy for all of you. Great. Enjoy. I'm sure there are people who, identify as a cat and shit in a litter box.
Oh, you can identify as a cat and shit in a box. I guess that goes back to the litter box in classrooms thing, which is about school shootings, which is apparently an issue Bill Maher cares about, but he'd rather own the transgender kids at risk of getting shot because, he thinks they identify as a cat. Identify my asshole, Bill. Fuck you. He says men are pussified now and uses James Bond as an example.
I saw the most recent anyway, James Bond movie. Anybody see this? Oh my God, they pussified James Bond. He literally takes his girlfriend and her kid on his mission to save the world. He practically stops off at Target to buy tampons on the way to the underground volcano lair.
And I don't know a lot about James Bond, but the way he describes it kind of sounds like porn.
They've been making this movie for 60 years. It's a formula. James Bond always fucks 3 hot chicks in every movie. He fucks the scientist's daughter, he fucks the bad guy's girlfriend, and he fucks the super hot British agent he's working with who's always like prim and proper.
And considering how much Bill seems to enjoy James Bond, I mean, maybe it is porn. Bill Maher closes the set by saying this.
We have to sit together again, talk to each other, don't cut each other off. Talk. Just not about politics.
Okay, it's finally over. That was so bad. Like, I knew this special would be bad. It's fucking Bill Maher. But I don't know how I could have expected this. I didn't deserve this. Bill has hinted that this might be his last HBO special, and I think it has to be. You have to quit comedy, Bill. You're not doing a good job. Don't keep doing this. Each comedy special I watch on this channel is getting worse and worse in quality, and I don't know what to do about it. Bill Maher is a relic from an older, much worse time, and he's desperately clinging on to the immature reactionary snark he's been rewarded for lazily dumping out on stage for decades. His comedy is less Carlin and more car crash and explode, and it's tragic and no one laughs. It's not a joke. You can't laugh. Most of Bill's routine is just him doubling down and justifying his crotchety old man opinion. And he's only gotten worse with age, more fixated on stupid nonsense, less interested in real politics, and more so in browbeating everyone who isn't on his level. Like I said, there's still more to talk about when it comes to Bill Maher and his horrible brain. He has a podcast I unfortunately have to talk about, but thankfully, not today. For now, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you very much, all of you, for the support on my last video. It really means a lot. I don't know if I've ever had a video do that well in that period of time. So thank you a lot for that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications to get notified when I post videos on the channel. You'd think that's what the subscribe button does, but I guess it doesn't. Drop a like on the video, follow me on my social medias in the description below if you want. Please don't make me watch any more stand-up specials. I don't want to. Just kidding, I probably will. Thanks again for watching. Bye.
Dead.
How is it that you can get sad when you see someone doing something, but then you've also done the same thing, and then but it reflects on you internally? Like, you know what I mean? It's like such a weird thing. Sometimes I will see a picture like this, and I'm not touring, and it'll bum me out. And I'll go, what am I doing with my life? I wish I could do something like this. And I was with Leanne in bed, and I saw the list of pictures, and it looked so fun.
There's no friction. It's just life gets crazy.
Yeah.
You should do it once.
This is my arena tour.
But then the next tour, you should do theaters.
For the past 5 years, we've watched Bert Kreischer go from being a regular stand-up comic and TV show host to one of the biggest names in stand-up comedy at the time. He had one of the highest grossing comedy tours back then, had a movie made about him, and at the same time, had multiple successful comedy shows on YouTube. You know the deal. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down. And although for comics like Bert, a downfall still looks like a dream lifestyle that most of us will likely never touch. That decline still weighs heavily on these entertainers, especially someone like Burt, who, let's be honest, thrived on being the center of attention and being the guy on top. And well, recently, Burt has been going through some very interesting times. His own friends seem to be tired of him. Sober October ended, and now Burt is finally taking a break from touring. But on top of that, for the first time in over 3 years, the Fully Loaded tour is not happening, which is very strange, but very interesting. And also, what's really wild is that not too long ago, Louis C.K. pretty much predicted and warned Burt Kreischer about everything that he's going through at the moment. But of course, back then, he completely ignored it and forgot about it.
I remember you telling me a lot of like really kind of sage things.
I used to do arenas and stuff, all that.
You told me that.
Yeah.
You go, you're doing arenas. I said, yeah. And you go, it's for you.
Yeah, exactly. The audience is not, it's fun. Like, wow, look, I'm in an arena. But the audience is like, I can't even see him. If you're a fan, you watch the guy every time he comes to town. You know, if you're in Minneapolis, you see him come to the Acme every year. And then you go, he's at the Pantages now. That's cool. And then the State Theater. And then he plays the Timberwolves Stadium.
I'm playing there.
And you go there as a fan, you go, huh. Okay, good for you, Burt. I'm happy for you. But the next year, if he's at the Timberwolves, you don't see him again there. You'll see him at the Pantages every time he comes. Yeah. Your favorite comedian. But you're not going to go see him at the arena every year.
I would love to say I'm done for a year, but I don't have that brain. I can't.
Yeah, I need the time off.
Now it's 2025, and all the close friends that he once overshadowed have completely blown up and caught up to him. They all have comedy specials on Netflix. They're doing arenas. And since the market for podcast comedians has cooled down, well, Burt is not that special anymore. And what makes this such an interesting case, in my opinion, is that we're not technically witnessing a downfall, at least not yet. And instead, we're basically watching Burt Kreischer getting into his own head and completely freaking out over the idea that his fans and his close friends might realize that he's no longer an arena comic.
It was lit there, dude. It was like, we're about just a hair under 17,000 people, and they were like, I mean, it's Chicago. Like, they were energetic, and like, yeah, he had a great set. I had the most fun doing that show. And a lady had a seizure in that show.
Someone had a seizure?
Yeah.
Someone had a seizure at my Lucky taping.
Oh, really?
During the taping, someone had a seizure. And I was like, great, we won't use this. Unless
I'm like working the round, so I'm like working it, you know?
I had an interesting moment when I saw that picture that we have up right now. That's you in Chicago. And I haven't been really on social media a ton. I've been trying to stay off it just for mental health, because sometimes, I'm being very candid and honest, sometimes I will see a picture like this and I'm not touring and it'll bum me out. And I'll go, what am I doing with my life? I wish I could do something like this. And I was with Leanne in bed, and I saw the list of pictures, and it looked so fun.
It was fun.
You got the jerseys.
Yeah.
You got you're with DeStefano, and it's just so cool.
Jeff Tate was there.
Yeah, Jeff Tate. And I was in bed with Leanne, and I was like, I'm not doing shit with my career.
Oh my God, you're crazy.
And I was like, dude. I gotta get on the road. I gotta get back on tour. And I was like, I gotta do Chicago. I want to do the United Center. And she was like, wait, didn't you do it last time you were in Chicago? I was like, oh, did I? She goes, yeah. And then I look, and I have the exact same picture of me in United Center. And I'm like, God damn it. How is it that you can get sad when you see someone doing something, but then you've also done the same thing, and then but it reflects on you internally. Like, you know what I mean? It's like such a weird thing to like see someone on vacation and it bums you out, and you're like, wait, I've been to that exact resort.
Yeah.
Like, I see people on vacation and I go, oh man, I wish I could do that. I was in Spain looking at people on vacation going, oh, I want to go on vacation.
You're like, I'm on vacation.
Yeah, what the
Wait, how was Spain?
Funny enough, Burt brought up a great question. How come, if he already did everything that his friends are doing right now, you know, doing arenas and being the guy on top, why does he still feel sadness and frustration whenever his friends like Tom are doing exactly what he already did? And well, I think the answer is pretty simple, and it goes back to him always wanting to be the center of attention and the fact that he's no longer that. But also, on top of that, him no longer being needed is really getting to his head. What I mean by that is that for the past years, even if you were not a fan of Burt, you couldn't deny that he was massively successful, and so he had the opportunity to help out other comedians by giving them jobs. We've mentioned this before, but when it comes comes to the Fully Loaded tour, because Bird actually cares about putting on a good show and doesn't really care about having comics that are way better than him going on before, it really is a good opportunity to not only make good money, but also get experience performing in front of a massive crowd and also maybe get some new fans. And so for a comedian looking for work, besides Joe Rogan, you could argue that being close friends or being associated with Bird was one of the best things in terms of opportunities.
I'm going to do my own festival, and I'm going to get 7 tour buses, a couple private jets. I'm going to get 26 comics. I'm going to take them on the road. I'm going to pay everyone handsomely, and I'm not going to make any money. Well, I'm not doing it for the cash grab. There's no cash grab in this. For me, it's about the party, the hang that I wanted to have at Oddball.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be with you guys. I wanted to.
Oh, man,
I wanted to.
that's what you're doing.
That's all, Bobby, it's the only reason I'm doing it. It's not profitable. Text him. You know how much I offered you. What are you getting angry for? I offered everyone tons of money. Like, it's not profitable. For me, it's about 5 weeks of the summer where I get to hang out with my friends and party. That's it. That's it. That's it. We will make money. I'm sure we'll make money, but not like if I just went on tour.
Now, some people might see that as Bert Kreischer being a good friend, but in my opinion, the time that he actually showed his true colors was when he did the movie The Machine, because that was a perfect time to actually show Hollywood what podcast comedians or Rogan Sphere comedians could do. And instead, he went the complete opposite way and let Hollywood do their thing. Because instead of him fighting for his friends, his close friends, to be in the movie, to be acting in the movie, they went with A-list celebrities in hopes of them carrying the movie, which was a complete failure. It was a flop. They thought they could capitalize on Bert's audience and make it an Adam Sandler or Kevin Hart type deal, but they didn't realize that he didn't have the audience, and instead, it was Joe Rogan. If you remember back then, there was a time when Bert Kreischer basically begged Joe's audience to watch the movie and to do it for Joe.
This movie was going to sell on the shelf. Joe, you've done so much for me. Do it for Joe, guys. Do it for Joe.
Do it for me.
Prove that he's the motherfucker.
Well, I just think it's a funny movie.
And by the way, don't forget to like the video. It helps out so much, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You had a much needed break, don't you think? This has been good for you, though, too?
It's been really good for me. It's been really good for me to slow down. I think, can I tell you the biggest thing, and this is maybe a little inside baseball, but like, I think when you're that busy, sometimes people ask you to do creative stuff and you don't have the bandwidth for it. And so it comes out mediocre. And so like I'll give you a perfect example is like promo videos. They would tell me like, we need an on sale video for ... And I'd just be like, I get so many of those. And you have all this stuff that you just, all of a sudden I feel like the fun gets pulled out of the job. When the job was never intended to be work, it was meant to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun.
And it is work, but it should be fun work.
Yeah.
And that's when it's at its best. Is like, and that's why I think when you see, I'll use Shane as an example, but when you see Shane make tires or Gillian Keeves, that was all just fun. It wasn't work yet. His calendar wasn't loaded. All he had to do was sit in an apartment with his boys and try to make each other laugh. And that's the beauty of the playfulness of stand-up, you know? And I think I had subtracted that out of it and gotten so many plates spinning that I couldn't have fun with anything. I just was like, I looked at everything as another job. And I think I'm glad that I got the opportunity to kind of slow down, because now I'm having fun and trying to like writing jokes and shooting content that's fun, and I'm enjoying doing podcasts that I'm not promoting anything. I'm just going on to do a podcast.
Well, then also maybe try not to get yourself in that same place again, right?
That's my goal. My goal is to downsize a little bit and bring it backwards, so that I don't have as much shit coming at me and just have fun with stuff.
Now, when it comes to Bird taking a break from touring, it is really odd and doesn't make too much sense, because if that was true that he chose to take time off, that would be the biggest form of self-control ever shown by Bird. Think about it. That would mean that he turned down a fully loaded tour, an arena tour, and the opportunity to do what he loves the most, being on the road, partying, and getting all the attention in the world. That would be like a gambler walking away while everyone else is hitting jackpots. It doesn't make any sense, because while Bird claims that it was his choice to take time off, At the same time, he's getting mad that he's not out there doing arenas with Tom. And instead of accepting that going from arenas to theaters is completely normal, he still feels the need to create a story and a narrative to explain what happened, which was absolutely predictable. We have been calling this out for the past 2 years, and back then, we mentioned how because of Bird's attitude and his behavior, it was pretty easy to see that he would have a hard time going from doing arenas to theaters because, for example, back then, he used to make comments pointing out how Tom had only done one arena while he did arenas.
And who makes more money? You're Tom. You're selling more.
No. I
should shut up because I love him and he'll eviscerate me. Probably.
No. Tom has I think his podcast, Your Mom's House, is very profitable. I don't think he's touring right now. So it's anytime anyone's touring, I definitely do bigger venues than he does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he knows that.
Okay, good.
He's done an arena, I do arena. So like, whereas Tom has done an arena, he's primarily his comfort level is theaters. That's where he really can sell tickets.
One truck.
Yeah, I have like 5 semis and 3 tour buses.
And so since now technically Bird is the one with only a few arena dates coming up later in the year, while everyone else like Tom has been doing arenas and is also on tour, that has to be bothering Bird. Now that he's no longer top 3, he realizes that he needs to actually start working on material instead of just focusing on marketing and partying. And look, to be fair, when it comes to the rest of the Rogan sphere, they're not that much better because I just watched Ari Shaffir's new comedy special on Netflix and it wasn't that good. I mean, he did have 2 or 3 good jokes and the best one was the closer, but the rest of the show was pretty boring. I mean, he talked about all the basic topics that every Rogan sphere comedian touches, being censored, cancel culture. At some point, he was talking about not being able to say the R word in 2025. I mean, I don't know how long he was working on that joke for, but the point is that it wasn't that good. And same thing with Andrew Schultz. We'll talk about it in the next video, but we did review this back when I saw him live and was shocked at how much his material had changed. I recently saw him live for a live tour, and after watching his new sets, his new hour, I was completely shocked at how much his stand-up comedy actually changed because it's a complete night and day difference from his last comedy special, the infamous special, and his new comedy now is absolutely different. It was really disappointing, but now when it comes to Tom, this here is a perfect example of how money does change comedians because you would think that a comic getting into an accident would eventually turn into a funny story on the podcast since, they are podcast comedians at the end of the day. But instead, this is what we got.
Hang on. Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Did you know they had video of you talking to that lady, or did that video show up and you found it? The lady that hit your car.
I knew it. Yeah.
Oh, you knew they had video?
Yeah.
Did you know you were being recorded?
Not at that moment. No.
Okay.
And she also,
was there a moment?
The moment the video cuts off is the moment the video cuts off. Like, I didn't edit because people were like, oh, it sounds like you were about to get really aggressive with her. I was like, yeah, I did. But they just stopped recording.
That's the crazy part is I was wondering if you were nervous that you might have said something that you didn't want out there.
No, I wasn't. I mean, it was an insane series of events to watch somebody hit your car, walk up to them and go, hey, you just backed up into my car, and have that person look at you in your face and go, I don't think I did. And I'm like, I watched you. And then she goes, I don't think I did. I go, not like, do you think you did? You did. Yeah. I don't think I did.
All units
and then they're like, yeah, your trailer hitch has the paint from my hood on it. Yeah, this was, I didn't know I was being recorded, but yeah. And then.
That's a terrifying feeling when you find out in a heated moment you're being recorded.
Yeah, well. But the trailer thing, I was like, lady, not only did I watch it, there's the trailer hitch and there's the hood of my car. It's like a perfect match. There's the paint.
Yeah, there's the paint.
Yeah, it was just nonsense.
Now I'm curious, I want to know what idiot on the internet blamed you or took her side for it.
Oh, a bunch. A whole bunch.
That's crazy.
A whole bunch.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So people on the internet was like, bro, you're rich.
Oh, yeah.
You can just fix it.
If you can afford this car, you can afford to fix it. They're like,
they should flag those accounts. By the way, I'd interview Putin in a heartbeat.
Interview?
100%.
For sure.
Are you kidding me?
Now, what's really funny about this is that when I first saw this on social media, on Instagram, I thought it was pretty straightforward. You know, the lady hit him and drove off, and so it's clearly not Tom's fault. But then, you know, hearing him talk about it on the podcast quickly reminded me just how out of touch he was, because instead of trying to find a way to make that funny, it was really just him complaining about the whole situation. And it is pretty funny because if you remember, Tom has been getting backlash and getting trolled ever since he decided to lash out and call out the poors a while back. And so in this case, the fact that he's driving a supercar, a car that is worth like $200,000, and then gets hit by someone who he would call a poor, I mean, that is pretty poetic. Once again, I'm not saying he's in the wrong when it comes to the accident, but his reaction was definitely funny because I could be wrong, but the fact that he does have a lot of money makes it way less relatable. I mean, as someone that loves cars, I completely understand the pain of someone just hitting your car. The fact that he could just take it to the shop and has many other cars waiting for him, again, makes it way less relatable. At this point, I feel like people would relate more to the lady that hit him than to him, because I feel like I have a way bigger chance of at some point crashing into a supercar than owning one. But also, could you imagine a stand-up comedian getting on stage and talking about how much it sucks watching their supercar get hit by someone with no money? I mean, unless it was a corporate gig, no one would find that relatable. But the point is that it's really funny watching Tom not getting the hate comments, because think about this. He makes fun of Bert Kreischer for making everything about himself, but then he goes on and posts an entire video, essentially a mini documentary, showing how his supercar, his $200,000 car, got hit. And so even though Tom likes to make fun of Bert and call him out, at the end of the day, he's also the victim of the exact same thing, because he's basically focusing on everything else except his own comedy. I mean, I'm pretty sure we just watched an episode of a comedy podcast, but there was no comedy.
I felt the same way you did for a very long time.
Yeah, but look at how big you are now.
No, but I think what happened with me is you get this. I mean, this is exactly what happens. Is you take on a responsibility like a movie where you're the star of it, or a TV show, or a tour, or you create a tour, or you do an arena tour where you had that was never my goal was never to try to be like a I want to be the man. I remember Schultz came on my podcast when I did it out of my house, my old house. And I was like, so what's the goal? And he was like, to be the GOAT. And I was like, what? And he was like, I'm coming after Chappelle and I'm coming after Bill Burr. And I was like, I remember hearing that going like, oh, I just hope they think I'm funny.
Yeah, I don't have that in me at all.
But what happens is you start doing bigger things, and then all of a sudden you have to, it gets out of control. It gets totally out of control, and you have 15 people working for you, and you've got a vodka company, and a 5K, and a summer festival, and a cruise, and an arena tour, and a movie, and a TV show, and another movie, and 3 movies in development, and you're writing another movie with another guy, and then you're like, wait, I don't know what did I get into this for? It's almost like you go, like, what were we talking about?
Now, to be fair, there is a chance that he wasn't lying and he simply took a break and is coming back to do arenas the whole time, but I doubt it. To me, it seems like he's really having a hard time with the idea that he's no longer an arena comic and doesn't want to be seen as a theater comic, which is absolutely insane. I mean, outside of Bert Kreischer's head, in the real world, when it comes to comedy, doing theaters means that you're absolutely killing it. It's insane. And then doing arenas, it's just unheard of. And so instead of taking Louis C.K.'s advice and mentally preparing for the slight drop-off, he basically sold himself on the idea that he would always be doing arenas, which is insane. But yeah, this whole situation is wild, and it will be interesting seeing how it eventually plays out. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe.
Team deathmatch. Neutralize all threats. Sonny's crawling around. He's putting everything in his mouth. He's a fantasy of every tween and twix and all the boys and girls on TikTok. He's cute. He's got a mustache. He's a freedom fighter. Beautiful eyes. They call him Tim Hoofy Chalamet because he's a Houthi.
Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean? Excuse me? Of course I'm about to have a... I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism. It's so weird. It's so weird. Motherfuckers want journalism, and when I'm trying to do journalism, they go, why are you doing that? Bro, you are going to get banned? I think it would be ridiculous to do that.
Hassan now has the opportunity to express his journalistic.
Okay, so this guy is not a Houthi. He clarified this after this. Hassan thought that he was not. Not that it would have been wrong for Hassan to bring on a Houthi to talk to, for multiple reasons. For one, the US government hadn't even declared, not that the US government's designation matters aside from legal consequences, but at this time the US government had not declared them a terrorist organization. It only did so in retaliation for the anti-Israel blockade. Like literally, that's the only reason they did it. Just geopolitical weaponization of the terrorism list, obviously. Proving to you right there how fucking worthless it is. But the guy is not a Houthi. He's clarified multiple times, I am not a Houthi, I'm just a Yemeni citizen. So saying that Hassan said he was a Houthi, so that means he's a Houthi. People on TikTok call him a Houthi, so that means he's a Houthi. He's not. But if he was, it would still be fine to talk to him. Especially since Ethan has not even explained to us what exactly makes them terrorists. What terrorist attacks have they carried out? What is it? Aside from like Saudi Arabian articles about slavery.
Dick chops to get his boots on the ground and show us just how good of a reporter he can be.
I'm doing journalism, chat. Does he know what One Piece is?
He's been watching it since he was a kid.
The whole way!
The whole reason why he started asking him these dumb questions about anime is because during the interview it came up that the guy wasn't actually a Houthi. You know, he was expecting to be able to talk to him about the situation in Yemen, about like the group's perspective and stuff. And then it turns out he's actually just a no one. He's just a kid. So it turned into a conversation with a Yemeni, basically, a random Yemeni 19-year-old. And yeah, he's treating him like a fucking human being. That bothers you, doesn't it, Ethan? It fucking hurts you when an Arab person is treated like a human instead of a fucking, like, innately anti-Semitic demon to be crushed, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's sick. Yes. Yes. I love you too, man. Big time. Yeah.
I love you. I love you so much.
We're big fans of the Yemeni music videos. You can tell them that. I want to ask him about the knife. The knives are sick. What's up with the knives? You know, the third knife.
If one of those knives comes
He's asking a Yemeni man about Yemeni culture.
in front of you, it's not going back until it has blood on it.
Oh, okay. My bad. Well, I mean, I think it's cool, though. That's so crazy. So they're just chilling with the captains? Like, I don't understand.
The crews on these ships, and they like win them over with their charm, and they make them hate America and the U.S. government.
I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism. It's so weird. It's so weird. Motherfuckers want journalism, and when I'm trying to do journalism, they go, why are you doing that?
Ethan Klein has two strategies. Flash headline on screen, act like it proves what I said, when half the time the headline contradicts him or is just fake bullshit. Play clip, act like it's self-evidently bad without explaining how it's bad. Wow, incredible, dude.
What do you mean? I'm just chilling. We're just vibing. Yeah, we're just vibing. We're vibing big time.
Hassan uncritically interviewed this kid for about an hour. It was the most brazen display of disgusting terrorist propaganda that I have.
What the fuck? You have done nothing to show that this kid is a terrorist or that the Houthis are
ever seen in Western media.
What has happened to
with the Houthis? Does he know what has happened to any of the crews? Like I heard they.
Hassan almost asked a good question, but it's actually leading to the most obscene part of this interview.
He's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captain was Chinese, and he did talk with them, and he danced to music with them, and he was vibing. So he likes him, yeah.
So I mean, what? That's so crazy. So they're just chilling with the captains? Like I don't understand.
Ask yourself, why is he able to hang out with the captain and the crew of this pirated ship? Why would he?
Ask yourself. He didn't. He fucking didn't. There is not a single Chinese captain. No captains of any of the captured ships, any of the crew were Chinese. This is just bullshit. This was debunked literally months ago. What actually happened is that this guy mistranslated what he was saying. Multiple Arabic speakers said, he said that he's Yemeni, he never said that he was Houthi. And he said that the Houthis were Yemeni, not that he is Houthi, okay? That's one thing. Ethan claims that this guy hijacked the Galaxy Leader, which, just to be clear, it would be good if he had done that. God bless him if he had done that for Palestine. God bless him if he had carried out, if he had helped to carry out a blockade for Palestine. But unfortunately, he had not. What actually happened is that this guy, at most, paid as a civilian to go to the Galaxy Leader, which was turned into a tourist attraction that anyone could pay to tour. Without the crew there, obviously, as you can see. That's what happened. There's a video of like a crowd of tourists boarding the ship. Man, I would not want to go up that ladder. Fuck, man. But anyway, as you can see, this is tourists boarding the ship. Rashid never met the crew. What he did see was he saw a TikTok of a couple of Asian-seeming people, which was falsely captioned as the captain of the Galaxy Leader. This is not the captain of the Galaxy Leader. The captain of the Galaxy Leader is not Chinese, so none of the captains are Chinese. The captain of the Galaxy Leader is Bulgarian. Here is a video of the Galaxy Leader captain being released. He looks nothing. He doesn't even look Chinese. Look at him. That's him. Does that guy look Chinese to you? No, he's not. This is a 19-year-old kid who was mistranslated as having participated in these hijacking himself when he had not, as having met the crew himself when he had not. If anything, he lied and embellished and pretended that he had met the crew for the sake of an interview. Because he's fucking 19 years old, when what he had done was he saw a TikTok that had nothing to do with the hijackings anyway, of just an Asian-looking man, like, doing Yemeni stuff with Yemenis. That's all. This was shown months ago. This is from October. Ethan Klein knows this. He chooses to ignore it, to falsely present this guy as a member of the Houthis and a terrorist, which even if he had participated in these hijackings, he wouldn't be a terrorist. In fact, he'd be a fucking hero. It's not terrorism to participate in a blockade designed to put pressure on a country and its allies committing genocide. Give us a fucking break, dude.
He even have access to that. Hassan knows why. Of course, he is a Houthi terrorist. Instead of
he is a Houthi terrorist, you are just everything you're saying here is incorrect.
Challenging him and demanding more details about these kidnapped and missing people, he just runs defense for this guy, acting like he doesn't know why that would even happen.
He's saying that they win over the crews on these ships and they like win them over with their charm and they make them hate America and the U.S. government.
Like, he just takes everything this guy is saying as if it's coming from him and his own personal participation.
That's so funny.
And it's not.
It is super funny, the idea of kidnapped crew members who are being forced, probably at gunpoint, to do some death to America and maybe some cursing on the Jews. And
he's just making shit up now. That never happened.
And frankly, the callous disregard for the well-being of the literal hostages.
Oh my God, why are you pretending you give a shit about any of this, dude? You don't fucking care about this. You just care about covering for Israeli genocide. Just give us a fucking break. Liberate yourself from having to lie so much and just tell us what you really believe. It would be so such a weight off your chest, Ethan Klein. Anyway, so let us analyze the actual facts here and determine who is and who isn't a terrorist. Rashid Al-Khalidi, the Houthi guy who Ethan is slandering and defaming here, not even a member of the Houthi organization, not that the Houthi organization are terrorists, certainly not by the standards that Ethan used here or the evidence that he provided here. No evidence that he has ever participated in anything that can even remotely be construed as a terrorist action. No evidence of membership in anything that even remotely can be construed as a terrorist organization. What has he done? Posted tweets about killing Zionists. He went on a tour of a captured ship. That's really about it. He's also Arab. I guess we can't forget that. That's a really big thing for Ethan Klein. He's also Arab. We can't forget that. Now, okay, let's compare that to Healer Klein. As we went over earlier at the beginning of this, Healer Klein joined the IDF. Now, you can say that she was conscripted. I mean, that's a bullshit excuse. I don't think any of you who use that excuse would say that someone who was conscripted into ISIS is not a terrorist. But okay, let's accept that. But okay, let's accept that anyway. Well, she had a desk job like in Tel Aviv, far from the front line, but she found that boring. Boring. She found her little shitty job in the terrorist organization, the IDF, boring. So she asked them to transfer her to a job where she was way more connected to the actual terrorism. She asked them to transfer them to the West Bank. She got her wish. She was transferred to the West Bank, where she became a crucial logistical and organizational employee under the regional commander in charge of terrorizing the Palestinian people of Ramallah. There, she even volunteered to go on a raid because she wanted to see firsthand the terrorism of the organization that she was a part of. Let's ask questions here. Crucial and important questions. Would Ethan Klein consider by his standards that like a member of like the Houthi military wing, who like was a secretary who did crucial work to enable their military operations, as Healer Klein did, would he say that person is not a terrorist? He would not. He would think they're a terrorist. So by like any reasonable standard and by Ethan Klein's own standards, Healer Klein should absolutely be a terrorist. The IDF is the world's #1 terrorist organization by a fucking country mile. They carry out way more terrorism than any other organization. She does not have the excuse of just being conscripted because she specifically asked to stick closer to the action in this case being terrorism. She also doesn't have the excuse of just not being combatant because obviously it's not only the combatants who are terrorists. You know, ISIS needs secretaries and the IDF is way worse than ISIS. So let's just summarize our findings here regarding who is and who is not a terrorist. Rashid, no proof of membership in any remotely terrorist organization. No proof of participation in anything remotely considerable terrorist actions. Is Arab. Ethan Klein says he's a terrorist. Healer Klein, confirmed member of IDF terrorist organization. Found her role in terrorist organization not exciting enough. Asked for transfer to area closer to terrorist attacks against victims. Volunteered to participate in terrorist attack where hostages were taken. Is Israeli. Ethan Klein say she's not a terrorist. Now, I don't want to make any accusations of racism or anything here. You know, I don't want to accuse Ethan Klein of being a racist. Ethan Klein is a racist. Obviously, if any of these two people is a terrorist, it's Gila Klein 1,000 times over. She's a confirmed member of a terrorist organization. She has been confirmed to have volunteered to go on a terrorist raid where hostages were taken by the terrorist group. And for the other guy, there's no evidence of anything even remotely approximating that. The only really deciding factor here that Ethan Klein could possibly be using to determine that Gila isn't a terrorist and Rashid is that he's an Arab. So we'll just assume that that is his standard. Arab equals terrorist, Israeli equals not terrorist. It's that simple. And even if the claims that he's making about him were true, he wouldn't be a terrorist. It's a heroic thing to carry out a blockade against a genocide. Especially for Yemen. Like, Yemen is such a destroyed and downtrodden country. It is embarrassing to all of us that one of the countries that have done the most to fight the genocide in Gaza is a country that has just barely escaped a Saudi American Israeli genocide that has lasted a decade, in which around 400,000 people were murdered. It's insane, absolutely insane, that those people have done more than the rest of us. And it's even more insane that dickhead scum like this denigrate them for it while claiming to be pro-Palestine. This guy has never seen a pro-Palestinian action that he was not against.
Shocking, even for somebody that loves terrorists.
That's so funny. Is there a KFC there? They're everywhere. I don't think there's a KFC in Yemen, dog.
Pure editorializing, construction of narrative, really shitty narrative as well. No evidence, no facts, pure narrative. He's not even good at it either. This guy's just, I don't know, how is he famous, man? Honestly.
He says they have two.
Oh, they do have KFC in Yemen? That's crazy. Okay, that's sick.
Is there
asking Yemeni about Yemen? How dare you be curious about an Arab Muslim country? You're treating him like a person. Ethan Klein can't have that.
KFC in Yemen? No way, dude! Holy fuck! There's a KFC in Yemen! He's just like us!
I'm sure there's clips of like Ethan Klein talking about what Israel is like, not understanding the irony when his wife is a literal fucking terrorist and Israel itself is basically one big, never-ending terrorist attack. Fucking hypocritical piece of shit moron.
Does he know what One Piece is?
What if he's been watching it since he was a kid?
No way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes, that's fire.
It's just Ethan Klein angry that an Arab is being treated, a random Arab civilian is being treated as a human being. It's insane.
So fire. Oh my God. We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
You guys all remember Luffy's flag, right? Now, I'm only halfway through that show, so maybe I just haven't come to it yet. But I do not remember Luffy's flag looking like this.
That's the ISIS flag. The Houthis fought against ISIS, you dumb motherfucker.
Predictably, there was some blowback after this interview, and Hassan went immediately into damage.
American imperialists and Zionists like you who just want to delegitimize anything that is even remotely pro-Palestine because you support genocide.
Control to rewrite history.
He said that he was just simply a Yemeni person and not a Houthi. Yeah, I mean, we don't even know if he's a Houthi or not. He's a teenager in Yemen. The dude is neither a Houthi nor a terrorist.
Dude, you are just lying. He said that he's not. And why should we not take his word for that when you have presented no evidence aside otherwise? Like, dude, this is from fucking February 2024 and you're still saying this. This was clarified long before you even said
Nor Pirate is not a Houthi rebel. They didn't fucking call him a Houthi either.
It's so painful to watch him act like this is such an epic gotcha when he's just plain fucking wrong.
You wanna know why? Because he's not one. He's not a Houthi himself. He's not a pirate, but, you know, I don't think he's not a pirate. He has reiterated the position that he is not a Houthi. Trust me, bro, I'm not Houthi. Be for real. You sucked him off the entire stream. Not even a Houthi militant or anything like that. When I interviewed the dude, who they still to this day call a Houthi terrorist, Tim Houthi's not even a fucking Houthi. I thought he wasn't a Houthi because he's not. No, he was just some fucking Yemeni TikToker. Random fucking.
It's insane. He has not shown any evidence that the guy is who he says he is, Ethan. He's just playing this as if it's self-evidently wrong. As I said, play clips as if they're self-evidently wrong. Do not explain how or provide any evidence how they are. And just pop up random headlines in the screen.
Yemeni teenager. Didn't you brand it as him being a Houthi interview, though? Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes,
and he was wrong.
What do you mean?
He was wrong. And he should. I wish he was a fucking Houthi, man. It would have been cooler, way better. Obviously, people interview, like even people from actual terrorist organizations like the IDF all the time. Do you think that should be illegal or something? I don't understand.
All right, let's just take Hassan's word for it and assume, okay, this kid is not a Houthi rebel. He's just some ordinary.
Oh man, okay, let's try. Let's see how well you do here.
Yemen teenager. Let's go ahead and take a look at his social media and see if that lines up. All right, let's see here. Tel Aviv will burn in the coming hours.
That's really funny. It's like an AI-generated image saying Tel Aviv will burn in the coming hours, and just like quiet. It's the funniest thing about that is especially like it includes Gaza and the West Bank. How do you take that seriously? If you saw like a 19-year-old 19-year-old Ukrainian posts a picture saying Russia will burn in the coming hours, and it's like an AI-generated picture of like all of Russia on fire. Would you take that seriously? Would you be like, holy shit, this is proof that this guy is a terrorist? That's not what a terrorist is. Posting tweets, you can't, by definition, cannot be a terrorist by posting tweets. There has to be more to it. Ready for sacrifice and eager for martyrdom. What's wrong with that?
Ready for sacrifice?
I guess you can't understand being willing to sacrifice yourself for a cause that's bigger than you, but that's bigger than you, like the genocide of Palestinians. I guess you can't imagine that.
Eager for martyrdom.
This guy just sees words like sacrifice, martyrdom, and he's like, Arab, terrorist.
Maybe he's talking about football? Here he is singing a song with the words, do you threaten us with what we are waiting for, son of a Jew? Meaning of Houthis.
That's like the one best thing that he has about him. As I said earlier, in the context of these countries that are literally terrorized by fucking Israel, what do you expect their population to think a Jew is? The only Jews they even know of is like Israel says it's Jewish and it terrorizes them and others. What the fuck do you expect, dude? If you're against anti-Semitism so much, you should be against Israel.
Title, and it's not something to fear, but for the Jews, they are very...
Even if we were to take these social media tweets at face value, even if we were to accept this guy is like a born anti-Semite, like he holds up the protocols of the Elders of Zion and he loves Adolf Hitler. Let's assume that. Hassana is not responsible for his social media posts that he posted after the interview. There's fuck all to do with it. That's even aside from the analysis of like, why would people in the Middle East downtrodden by fucking Saudi American Israeli imperialism hate Israel? Why would they associate the word Jewish with Israel? You don't even analyze that. You're not incapable of analyzing that. You're too fucking stupid.
Afraid of this title. The execution we will carry out on all Zionists with the lovely depiction of a man...
Zionists, not Jews. You see how he has to change words sometimes?
Impaled through his asshole and out of his mouth with a pipe. Or
would it be wrong to say this is the execution would be carried out on all Nazis? Would he be against that as well? I don't think he would. These are both abhorrent ethno-nationalist genocidal political ideologies.
Don likes to say it, a pike for a cup. Okay, why would he retweet this article called Houthis use social media to boost global prominence and support? Israel falls, wait for the new operation in Tel Aviv, the Jaffa drone, which knows...
He retweeted an article?
Israeli defense can stop. The ships we bombed and sank. I know the red arrow is supposed to be a cool military Hamas thing. This is a butt plug. Just saying. To every...
That's very funny.
Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. And let me state the...
None of this is wrong for him to post. Good on him. I hate Zionists too.
Zionist is clearly interchangeable to this guy. Oh.
It's interchangeable to you. It's interchangeable to you. You have to change it. This guy is clarified. By the way, he shouldn't have to, because it's expected that people who the only thing that they know about Jews is that Israel claims to be Jewish, claims to represent Jews, while massacring people in the name of Jews, or at least saying in the name of Jews, rather. So that a guy like this does not know, he's not enlightened on the difference between Zionist and Jew, when he's a fucking 19-year-old from Yemen who spent most of his life in a country ravaged by Saudi American Israeli imperialism, one of the most poor countries in the world as a result of that he did not know how to differentiate between Jew and Zionist. Like, that is literally like the definition of woke schooling. If there's ever a better usage of that term, it's here. Like, of fucking course he's not going to be so enlightened to know the difference, you dumb fuck. But you know what? He's learned from the experience. He's posted. Like, he's clarified that he knows the difference between a Jew and a Zionist now. I do not hate Jews. I hate every Zionist who kills children. Even if he is Muslim and does what Israel does, we will all be against him. The Zionist tries to hide behind the Christian or the Jew, the innocent. We understand everything. The Jews are with us and there are Christians with us. When we say Zionist, we do not mean the Jew or the innocent Christian. We mean the ones who kills children. So yes, this is a 19-year-old who has learned the distinction between Jew and Zionist as a result of him engaging with people who are all around the world. And what's more than what we can say for Ethan Klein? You should be ashamed that a poor 19-year-old in a country ravaged by Saudi, Israeli, American genocide for the last decade can do this, but you can't. We should not expect him to know this stuff. We should not expect some random teenager from the poorest country in the world to be able to meaningfully distinguish between Jew and Zionist when Israel claims that those two things are the same all the time, when that's all that he knows about Jews. It's fucking ludicrous that you do. There's a great article by this in the Palestinian context by Mohammed Al-Kurd, which also applies to the wider Middle East as well. It's called Jewish Settlers Stole My House. It's Not My Fault They're Jewish. Google it and it'll show up. It's about this bullshit weaponization of anti-Semitism against people who are victimized by Israel and who take it at its word when it says that it's Jewish. As he says here, I'm tired of the pearl-clutching pretense that should such animosity exist, its existence would be inexplicable and rootless, because obviously it can be explained by this linkage between Israel saying we're doing these horrible acts in the name of Jews, and people seeing that and taking them at their word. And most of all, I'm tired of the false equivalence between semantic violence and systemic violence. That's what Ethan Klein is doing here. He's like, look at this guy, right? This guy, he uses words wrong. He's a 19-year-old who doesn't know the difference between Jew and Zionist. Oof. what a terrorist. Like equating like terroristic violence with someone posting on social media a song which says son of a Jew. Israel is a country that massacres Palestinians, that genocides them while saying we're doing this in the name of Jews. We're doing this for Jewish people. We're doing this in the name of Jewishness. As someone who is supposedly against anti-Semitism, that should cause you infinitely more worry than a 19-year-old Yemeni taking that country at its word. And it's disgusting that you're too fucking stupid and callous to notice this stuff.
Okay, but hating Jews doesn't make you a Houthi. Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive. You know what makes you
a random fucking response to a comment on Instagram?
A Houthi? Being a Houthi. At least one of the two of them is being honest about it.
So it's obviously totally ridiculous that Ethan just completely ignores like 5 different tweets and videos from this Yemeni kid where he clarifies very clearly that he is not a member of the Houthis and he is not a military guy or a soldier of any form and just a civilian. Instead, he just shows a response to an Instagram comment in a language that he doesn't speak, where he gave a one-word reply. That obviously does not outweigh the other times where he clarified this in detail. And even had to skirt around that and not even show his audience it, because obviously he knew that if he did, they'd be like, well, that Instagram comment is not better evidence than all the other times that he talked about this in detail. It's pure intentional manipulation and lying. It's slimy as hell, and I mean, it's Ethan Klein, so what do you expect? But anyway, so guess what? What if I told you that Ethan Klein has outright said that Hila Klein was a soldier and not a secretary? What if I told you that using Ethan's own standards, we can say that Hila Klein was not just a secretary in the IDF terrorist group, but a soldier? Because Ethan himself has said that before. Here's a nice little clip where Ethan outright says so. Here's a nice little clip where Ethan outright says so back before it became inconvenient for him to admit it. Back before he realized, maybe it's not actually a positive thing to have been in a terrorist group, and maybe I should start saying she was a secretary instead.
Sort of spring break.
I fucked like crazy, dude.
What was your experience?
No, I met Hila there.
I know. I was gonna say your experience was a little bit different.
I was a young kid, dude. I was out there. It was my first trip out by myself. And Hila was a soldier in the Israeli army.
Dude, Hila was a soldier in the Israeli army. By Ethan's standards, this is like incredible, dispositive, irrefutable evidence. So we're going to go along with it. Hila was irrefutably a soldier in the Israeli army. If that Instagram post by Rashid is like smoking gun evidence of him being a Houthi soldier, then this is smoking gun evidence of Hila being an IDF terrorist soldier. But wait, there's more. Hila has not been entirely forthcoming about her actual role in the IDF. She was a member of the Kafir battalion, which she transferred to. Remember, she had a nice desk job in Tel Aviv, but she found it boring, so she decided to transfer to an actual combat battalion that terrorizes Palestinians in the West Bank, and that was this Kafir battalion. You can see here that Hila Klein has the Kafir battalion beret. How do you get the beret? Very simple. You do 8 months of combat training. As it says here, Kafir recruits must complete 8 months of combat training in order to be received into active service. So Hila Klein was not simply a secretary, right? Like, she was not just on the base as a secretary with no combat training, nothing whatsoever. No. She underwent 8 months of training in a terrorist training camp. So Ethan Klein acknowledges that she was a soldier. Outright, he said that she's a soldier. And given the standard of evidence that he used for Rashid being a soldier, this is way better evidence of that. So she's a soldier. She's not a secretary. Ethan Klein's standard of evidence being applied here to his own words. Tit for tat, my friend. And the beret that she carried in that picture evidences the fact that she underwent at least 8 months of training in an IDF training camp. That is a terrorist training camp of a notorious global terrorist organization. Way, infinitely worse than anything the Houthis have done. Like, Jesus Christ, the list of terror attacks of the IDF is fucking endless every single day. Another dozen kids massacred by Israel. Ethan, looks like slandering random Arab kids didn't go too well for you, and it made us actually look into your own terrorist wife's background and what you yourself have said about her in the past, and what the evidence in the photos of her proudly serving in this terrorist group show.
The whole way! Yeah. That's sick. Yes. That's fire. And that's so fire.
The FBI's most wanted terrorists, and one of them is fucking, what's her name? That's Assata Shakur. Isn't that Assata fucking Shakur? Dude, I'm pretty sure that's Assata Shakur. Ethan Klein thinks that if the USA says so, it goes. Like, Ethan Klein genuinely, from the quality of sourcing that he's done, is that, like, if someone has said something anywhere at any point, it makes it true no matter who they are, no matter what the evidence for it is. That's like the level of his citation and stuff here.
Oh my God. You think the Houthi is doing what Houthi would do? They're tweeting an image of a Jewish person on a pike. I don't understand why this problem can't be broached with nuance.
Jewish person on a pike. It said Zionist.
Because he is a teenager in Yemen, dude.
Talk about the bigotry of low ex.
Why did you stop him from being able to explain what he meant by that? Is it because it would ruin your entire fucking thing here? Because I'm sure he was just about to say, like, the Middle Eastern context, what these people know about Jews is that Israel says it does everything that it does in the name of Jews. That's all that they know about Jews. And you stopped him when he was clearly about to explain precisely that, as I have explained here, because you know you can't deal with the fucking argument. All that you can do is narrativize. You need to strategically exclude everyone who's debunked you to be able to form a narrative where you come off looking even remotely okay. Disgusting.
Expectations. He's a kid in Yemen, dude. What do you expect? Of course he's going to want to put a pike through a Jew's asshole.
Why don't you explain what that means? What does he's a kid in Yemen means? Explain the context, the Saudi-Israeli-American genocide. Explain the context of what a Yemeni would even know about Jewish people. Why don't you do that?
Through his mouth. That's just what kids in Yemen are like, man.
And also, what do you mean? It's just a person on a pike. There's no Jewish person on a pike on that photo, unless I saw something.
This is Ethan Klein, dishonest piece of shit. Zionist is a political ideology. He would be there like pearl clutching about people saying, I want to kill Nazis in World War II. Wait, hang on, man. You're saying you want to genocide all Germans?
Ethan Klein is the equivalent of a Nazi in 1942, like giving you like a laundry list of all of the problems with the resistance groups that fight back against the Nazis, and then being like, how is it possible you could support these subhumans when they're against gay marriage and they mandate that women wear a veil? Just skirting around the actual problem with them and the actual reason why people might sympathize with them, which has nothing to do with that and everything to do with them fighting back against you. And now imagine that Nazi being especially concerned with these resistance groups failing to differentiate properly between a German and a Nazi and using that as evidence of them being genocidal against Germans, removing all the context of why they might be fighting back against you and just framing it as if these people were born to hate Germans and thus they are irredeemable, horrible, terrible, and their resistance against the Nazis, you know, doing a literal genocide all over fucking Eastern Europe is unjustified. That is Ethan Klein and everyone else like him. It's exactly the same. Fake outrage, pearl clutching by a coward who is too afraid to say the truth, which is what his actual problem with all of these groups are, which is that they fight back against Israel. That is the reason. After decades of Israel destroying Lebanon, Hezbollah comes up and starts fighting back against Israel. And Ethan's like, how could this be? How could anyone support them fighting back against us? That's what he's actually against. He's against the resistance to Israel. Everything else is just him looking for excuses to be against it without actually saying so.
Unless I saw something different.
Hassan claims this isn't even a Jewish person on the pike. How exactly is a naked piked person supposed to look like a Jew for you, Hassan? You know what? You're right. Let me make it a little clearer for you. First, he needs a bigger nose, right, Hassan? Of course, he needs a yarmulke, the curly things. Oh, look, Hassan, he dropped his dreidel.
Isn't it fucking insane that Ethan is doing this to like be like, oh, I should make him look like a more stereotypical Jew, when this is Ethan Klein's reaction to seeing a stereotypical Jewish-looking person.
Here we are in Neighbor.
Anti-Semitic piece of shit.
And it's the home of the Jew. The Jewy Jew, not just this Jew like, you know, me or Eva. But this is home of the
Ethan will never watch any video that includes this clip. He has avoided even mentioning its existence.
The Jew, you know, the dirty, grimy, jacket-wearing Jews. Real dirty ass.
How fucking dare you try to weaponize anti-Semitism strategically in this case when that's you dumb piece of shit.
Must be Jewish for sure. Or, you know, you could just read what he wrote, you dumbass liar.
Zionist? He didn't write Jew.
Terrorist-loving propagandist piece of shit.
This is fucking idiot. All he's done is like make these massive leaps. Like, what? You said that you want Israelis to have their Amazon packages delayed slightly? You support the Holocaust, don't you? Now this...
Why? This entire conversation is fucking idiotic. It's not a Jewish person. He said this is, I think if we're... Why am I held accountable for some random fucking 19-year-old in Yemen's tweets? What is happening? How many steps removed are we from this situation?
0. I mean, you platformed him. Do you not remember? Did the check not clear or something? When faced with fair criticism for his coverage of the Houthi Luffy, he has a total meltdown.
I fucking despise all of you, dude. I do. I really do. I hate all of you. You successfully got me to talk about this, and my patience is like... My patience is running thin on this matter. The endless selfishness. The untapped well of American selfishness and American...
Does he just go on about this for like the next 20 minutes? It seems like it.
Individualism is in full display. How is this the conversation that you want to have right now?
One of the most cynical methods Hassan deploys to sidestep any criticism is to deflect to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I've seen him do this so many times. He frames it like you are so.
What do you mean deflect the ongoing genocide in Gaza? You can't divorce the ongoing genocide in Gaza from this whole thing with the Houthis and this guy. It's specifically what the subject is.
For trying to criticize him, no matter what the reason is, because there's a...
You're criticizing him on the basis that he's supposed to be platformed a Houthi terrorist, as you say, because the Houthis are carrying out a blockade against Israel-related and Israeli ally-related ships. That's why you're criticizing him in the first place. It's obviously directly related to Gaza, and you're trying to delegitimize that campaign because you support the Gaza genocide and you're against all action against it.
A genocide happened.
Obviously, it's fucking related.
Man, how can you criticize me at a time like this?
Claiming that I am, too pro-Houthi. When someone is like focusing on that while there's an active fucking ethnic cleansing campaign happening.
Yes. How is that not related, dude?
He also apparently...
Isn't it? This is just disgusting, dude.
He thinks Twitch is liable for me interviewing a Yemeni teenager who's only known genocide his entire life. In the middle of fucking...
Yes. What the fuck? How could you possibly say that's a true statement? Exactly. The Saudis have carried out genocide in Yemen. The guy's 19. You would have been 9 when it started. You started your video. You started your fucking video. I have to say the timestamp, 52:55. You started your video by just throwing out the word genocide in regards to China without doing anything to even remotely prove your claim. Do you need to be reminded of that?
Why is he defending China's genocide of their Muslim population? How did...
You're like, oh, he defends genocide. It's genocide. I've done nothing to prove there's a genocide, but he defends genocide. Genocide. And then now you're like, you do this epic edit where you're like, how dare he mention the genocide in Gaza in relation to things directly related to, intrinsically related to the genocide in Gaza. You think that someone shouldn't use words like genocide and ethnic cleansing in relation to a genocide and ethnic cleansing? How dare you weaponize these words that actually describe what's actually happening, says Mr. Pro-Palestine. Like, what a joke. I'm just honestly sitting here right now thinking, like, is there another 50 minutes of this seriously that I'm going to have to go through here? Oh man, it's so painful. This hurts. It's so... I don't know if I can stand fact-checking literally every little thing. Like, he flashes a headline on the screen for 2 seconds. Should I really have to fact-check that? He hasn't really gone into it at all. He hasn't actually explained how it proves his claims. It's just like, it's taking so fucking long. And, oh man. This is just a shit show. Like, there's no substance here at all. There's nothing here.
I'm a fucking genocide.
It's a pure narrativization. How dare you talk about genocide in Gaza?
Blow your nose, brother. Love you. Not trying to be mean. Just keep some tissue nearby and clear it out occasionally when needed. Much love. Fuck you, dude. My argument sucks? You think it justifies genocide? What are you, stupid? Everything that can be tangential.
When criticized for being anti-Semitic? Oh my god, he's fucking framing the Maccabi Tel Aviv hooligans who went to Amsterdam and chanted about how much they love massacring Palestinian babies. He's framing that. He's framing like the rightful retaliation on them from Amsterdam residents for them being abhorrent, disgusting genocide supporters as Hassan being anti-Semitic for pointing that out. That's what
actually turned into like
self-evident when criticized for being anti-Semitic. Ethan, given what you think anti-Semitism is, when you say something is anti-Semitic, people should honestly assume the opposite. That's a safer bet.
Jewish people are under attack is a decent way to just like drive discourse away from open genocide in Gaza. If you're so focused...
Correct. What he just said there was correct. That's what you're trying to do here. Claim anti-Semitism dishonestly to distract from genocide. When criticized for calling someone a Zionist, what's wrong with calling someone a Zionist? Nothing wrong with that, you Zionist, Ethan Klein.
Doing a complete genocide in Gaza, if your sole focus revolves around...
Yeah, when there's a genocide being carried out in Gaza by Zionists for Zionists, it's so fucking insane to be like, should you maybe be a bit careful with your language and not call people the hurtful word Zionist so much? That is fucking insane. He's completely correct.
That people are saying you're a Zionist. Yeah, go fucking yell at streamers for not covering sufficiently.
When criticized for not covering other stories, so yeah, focusing on a genocide. Whoa, you're a bit too focused on a genocide, buddy. How dare you?
The ongoing...
This is your criticism of him? Dude, you're making him look good.
Active genocide in Gaza instead of coming in here and fucking chirping at me.
It's quite a charge to just say I'm a stenographer of the Israeli government or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I'm doing
While we're having this conversation, 3,000... Piers, while we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered in the last incursion into Gaza. I feel like this is an incredibly...
This is just Ethan Klein repeating with like a sarcastic sounding voice, someone stating facts about an ongoing genocide, like as if to mock it. This is abhorrent and disgusting. This is absolutely fucking disgusting. If Ethan Klein is like so ready and willing to just offhandedly discount someone bringing up a fucking full-scale, like, physical elimination genocide being carried out, like, before our eyes like this, like, and mock it, how the hell does he possibly get off on being like, I don't think you have enough sympathy for the poor Israeli victims of the Palestinian
Palestinians, they colonized.
Like, what a slimy colonialist piece of shit this guy is, man. Where do you get off being like that when you're like this? When you think that, like, look at this guy. He's talking a bit too much about our genocide of the Palestinians, isn't he? And also, I genuinely feel so strongly about the poor Israeli victims of the barbarian Palestinians, and it really hurts me how he doesn't care as much about them as I do.
Selfish, self-centered conversation to have.
This technique is so powerful because everyone's afraid of being labeled as a genocide denier. Piers Morgan with...
It's fucking insane that he says this when he's the person who actually does this. He weaponizes anti-Semitism so fucking much. We've already gone over it. Like, he jumped from, what? You support a blockade against Israel so that Israelis will, like, feel some material hurt from that genocide in Gaza? You support the Holocaust, you anti-Semite. And he has the goal to be like, how dare you use the genocide card? It's so dishonest. He's like someone who doesn't know how to do anything other than try to weaponize anti-Semitism incredibly incompetently. It's insane.
Decades of experience immediately surrenders when the genocide
This is literally you.
card is pulled.
When you're just a fucking stenographer, you're not a truth teller.
He has every right to defend himself. And grow a pair, Piers. Stand up for yourself, man. It's time to stop being intimidated by these online...
Piers Morgan is a genocide supporter.
Overnight activist who couldn't even point to Gaza on a map before October 7th. Like Hassan, for example.
Doesn't know where Yemen is? Okay, I'm gonna click close. I'm closing it. I'm closing it. I think nope.
He doesn't know where Yemen is. Okay, that's not Gaza.
Nope. Got it.
How can you claim to actually care about this?
I think it's I mean, that's so small, but it's kind of crazy how he goes from, he constantly does things during this video where he says something and then he shows a clip and it's not even remotely what he's saying it was. And that's just another small instance of that.
Genocide when you're willing to so cynically exploit it to sidestep any criticism.
What are you talking about? He's just describing him. This entire segment is Ethan Klein describing himself, but with anti-Semitism allegations.
Hassan has one final taste of idiocy for us all to enjoy.
This kid is like, I think he was like 19 at the time when I talked to him. Which means that for most of his life, he has withstood genocide, right? Like he is a person who's...
Is this incorrect, Ethan? Try to prove this wrong instead of just mocking it. Repeating it in a funny voice, you 40-year-old fucking child.
Only experience is like, it's literally like talking to fucking Anne Frank, basically. Okay, being able to talk to Anne Frank in real time.
To quote Anne Frank, I keep my ideals because in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Anne Frank continues to inspire generations of people because in the face of a genocide that eventually took her and her entire family's life, except for her dad, she refused to give in to hate, malice, and violence. And then there's this guy who would...
Ethan Klein, do you think that Anne Frank would have been wrong to join a resistance group and fight back against the Nazis? Do you think that if she had done that, if she had hated her oppressors, as many Jews did, as many Slavs did, Yugoslavians, many people in World War II hated those who were oppressing them and who wanted to genocide them and took up arms against them. Do you think that those people delegitimize themselves in their cause by doing so? Because your only distinction here is that Anne Frank, she hid and then she was killed without being able to fight back. So is your implication there that if she had fought back, if she had hated her oppressors, rightfully so, that would have been wrong? This is your evidence of this guy supposedly being wrong. This guy who has grown up during a factual genocide by Saudi Arabia, the US, and Israel against his country. Your evidence is that he hates his oppressors. Your evidence is that he hates the people who did this to his country and to Palestine. That's your evidence, that he has hatred in his heart, that he feels spite for genociders, that he feels spite for oppressors, for colonists. That's your evidence. We have to ask the question then, Ethan. So you hated the Jews who did actually form resistance groups and fight back before they were captured, right? That legitimized what was done to them, correct? That means that they want victims. That's what you think. It seems like it, right? This is ridiculous. It's obviously a fucking ludicrous argument. What makes the story of Anne Frank sad is not that she didn't have hate in her heart. It's that she was murdered for being a child. She was a child murdered for her race. That's what makes the story of Anne Frank tragic and wrong. It's not who she was as a person. It's the simple fact that she was murdered for nothing more than an accident of birth. If she had fought back against those who were trying to do that, if anything, her story would be more meaningful, not less. And it's disgusting that you pretend otherwise. It's disgusting that you demand that victims of violent imperialist genocide do not hate their oppressors. Otherwise, they get painted by you as evil, violent terrorists. For you, the only legitimate Palestinian resistance is lying down and dying. For you, the only legitimate way to combat American imperialism is to lie down and let them kill you. And it's fucking absurd and disgusting.
Frank, if you ever met her. You might think this is a sweet, innocent girl. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys we are working on a new edition just for you, Hassan. You should hear about the time she went roaming.
Okay, let's skip the unfunny skits. Where does he try to start citing facts again?
Hezbollah. Where do I even begin? Thousands of civilians have been killed globally from their terrorist acts, car bombs, and suicide attacks. They even assassinated the Lebanese prime minister.
One of those pictures is of the army bombing in Buenos Aires, which no one has ever proven had any link to Hezbollah. Literally none. None. There's no evidence. No one has any fucking idea who did it. So bullshit, obviously. Hezbollah member guilty of Lebanon ex-PM's murder. Okay. And Ethan Klein does this thing.
Hijacked civilian airplanes. They've shot 15,000 rockets into civilian centers. And if you can imagine, that's not even the worst things they've done.
Isn't it funny how basically Ethan has never seen anyone who fights against Israel who he will not desperately try to delegitimize? What people support Hezbollah doing is fighting back against Israel. Lebanon, if you didn't know, is another country that has been heavily victimized by Israel, invaded, brutalized, attacked, genocided essentially multiple times. The existence of Hezbollah cannot be divorced from the existence of Israel. This is a fact. Hezbollah exists because of Israel. If Israel is attacked by Hezbollah, it's attacked because of what it has done to Lebanon. It's that simple.
They participated in the slaughter of over 500,000 Syrian civilians.
Half a million Syrian civilians for one. It's just... Oh. Your own image says this total includes civilians, rebels, and government forces. I know for a fact that in Syria, 75% of those killed are combatants, not civilians. I've gone over this in many other videos. And attributing all of these to Hezbollah is insane, obviously, but Ethan Klein is just so fucking lazy. He just looks up every single person who has died in Syria and attributes all of them to Hezbollah and says that all of them are civilians. He's such a fucking dumbass.
Help a dictator, Bashar Assad, stay in power. They indiscriminately bombed over civilian centers and they killed hundreds.
That's insane that you say that, given that Hezbollah exists. It was born out of the Israeli indiscriminate bombing of Lebanon. That's the context in which it arose. And obviously, Hezbollah did not indiscriminately bomb civilian centers in Syria. That was the Syrian government. Hezbollah does not have an air force, dude.
Of thousands of civilians, and what can only be described as a genocide. They are
You say that? How dare you say that? After you discount the Yemeni genocide, after you discount actual genocides, you say that Syria, a civil war in Syria, fought between Syrians against Syrians, like 99% of the participants, and you say it's a genocide. Look, I don't support Hezbollah's participation in the civil war, but the reason why people support what Hezbollah has been doing against Israel is because they are taking action against the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Against Israel, Hezbollah is the lesser evil. That is a fact. And yet you try to find every possible little thing to delegitimize them, to attack them, to try and remove that context. Because ultimately, you have never seen an action against Israel that you were not against, because you are ultimately a Zionist who is for the oppression of the Palestinians. You cannot be pro-Palestinian when you're against everyone who fights for them. You don't even need to be for the people who fight for them, but you do at least need to be able to say, okay, I don't like Hezbollah. They're bad. I would prefer that they didn't have the power that they did. I would prefer that they were not involved in Syria. They've committed atrocities there. You can say that. However, the fact that they are fighting back against Israel in the context of the Gaza genocide, trying to at least make Israel feel some level of material consequence for what it's doing there. You need to be able to at least say that, oh, you're just not pro-Palestinian. I'm sorry. It's that simple. Dude, are you seriously making this argument regarding the civil war in Syria when you have spent this entire video spreading straight up Saudi propaganda in favor of the Saudi-backed Yemeni dictatorship against the Houthi rebels who have deposed them? Like in both of these cases, the rebels, by and large, are in the right. And the Syrian rebels are a lot fucking worse than the Houthis are, though don't get me wrong, I still think they're less bad than the Assad government. But it's clear that the deciding factor for you here is just who is backed by the West. The US, Israel, backs the illegitimate dictatorship that the Houthis fight against in Yemen, so you support them and you hate the Houthis. On the other hand, the West backs the rebels in Syria, so you support the rebels and you're willing to call out the Assad dictatorship. It doesn't seem to matter to you that, like, literally 8 years ago, the rebels in Syria, the current dominant rebel group, was an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, and the current leader of the rebels was like a self-styled like sheikh who was trying to form an Islamic state in Syria under Sharia law. You know, with no gay rights and no women's rights. It seems like you're suddenly willing to overlook that. Previously, those were things that you automatically use to discount opponents of Israel in the US, but it seems like in this case, when Israel in the US is more supportive of these people, you're okay with it. It's so fucking transparent what your politics are. It's I support American foreign policy, Israeli foreign policy, always, no matter what. Like, you spread fucking Saudi propaganda in favor of a puppet dictatorship ship in Yemen and you're doing this shit now.
Designated terrorist group by the US, by the EU.
Oh, the EU and the US said so. Wow.
And, oh yeah, the entire Arab League, which gave them that status after their participation in the Syrian genocide. In short,
it's so funny, like, it's geopolitical interests, geopolitical declarations presented as evidence. That terrorist because I said so. I would love to get Ethan Klein here live and explain to us by his own standards how the IDF and the US military aren't terrorists, but he would never, obviously.
Nobody likes them. Well, there is one person.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do you like them or no?
They are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
I do not like them then.
Well, like
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them. Let's just.
Hezbollah exists in the context of Israel genociding Lebanon and Israel genociding Palestine. This is what I've been saying throughout the whole video. It's the circular logic of the Zionist Ethan Klein and other Zionists, where the pushback to our genocide legitimizes further genocide and delegitimizes those who are doing the pushback. It's so fucking crazy. It's like framing the Native Americans as the bad guys against American colonization because they reacted to Americans stealing their land and massacring them by raiding the settlements. It's just that's precisely what it is. It's the same sort of dynamic. And it's ludicrous that someone has a brain so small they just present this shit as if it's self-evidently wrong without any sort of analysis.
Is Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Hassan Piker, this man is a brilliant freedom fighter. But before we get into that, let's see how he feels about Jewish people. Here are some choice quotes from Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Shaul Shai, Hassan Nasrallah said in a speech delivered in Beirut, what do the Jews want? They want security and money. Throughout history, the Jews...
This guy is just like appealing to like the Western context of like Jewish exceptionalism and like anti-Semitism being presented as the worst thing in the world. To apply this to the Middle Eastern context, where people only know what Jews are, in the context of Israel saying that it does genocide in the name of Jews. Obviously, to blame people like this for saying this stuff, for taking Israel at its word, is no different to like blaming a Pole during World War II for being like, I fucking hate Germans, man. It's the same it's the same thing. And we need to get rid of this idea where it's not. Because ultimately treating Israel as an exception just because of which ethnicity its supremacist state is for is fucking ludicrous and we should not do it. And Ethan relies on this idea that Israel is exceptional because it's said it's for Jews and it gives Jews ethnic privileges. And that supposedly makes what it does better and more legitimate. And it makes people taking it at its word for that, like, bad. It makes them, like, irredeemable. Now, Hassan Nasrallah is obviously someone who lived for more than 20 years after this quote. And I've gone over something that he actually did say after that, obviously because his position evolved. He said that what he aims for in Palestine is one state, and that the only solution for Israel-Palestine is one state where Muslim Jews and Christians live in peace, and any other solution is unviable. That's what this is.
If we wanted to combine ideology and law and political realities and realities from the ground, we should say that the only solution is we don't want to kill anyone. We don't want to treat anyone unjustly. We want justice to be restored to them. The only solution is the establishment of one state on the land of Palestine, in which the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians live in peace in a democratic state.
So that someone who grew up and lived in this context of Israel claiming that it's a Jewish state while doing genocide managed to evolve his views over time to the point where he changed and started saying that one democratic state with equal rights for everyone is the only solution is admirable, though unexpected given the context. And look, I'm going to skip over all this other shit that Ethan Klein does. We're just like, look at what this guy said. Though I am sure that one of these quotes is fake. This next quote is fake. This is a fake quote, as this article notes. This one here.
We searched the entire world for a person more cowardly, despicable, weak, and feeble in psyche, mind, ideology, and religion. We would not find anyone like the Jew. Notice, I do not say Israeli.
I don't have an issue.
This is a fake quote, which was determined, as this article goes over, by the London Review of Books. This is an article from 2012. Ethan Klein is quoting a quote that was revealed to be fake more than a decade ago. So, yeah. You know, like all of these quotes that do seem to be legitimate are all from like around the early 2000s. And Nasrallah, where he clarified his later position, this is all from later. Like this video here, for example, is from 2024, where Nasrallah said, for example, that he does not believe in global Jewish conspiracy theories. He actually believes that the idea of the global Jewish conspiracy is wrong and that the US are the ones who are in control of Israel, which is obviously true. and that Jewish conspiracies only serve to excuse Arab countries for their financial ties with the US and refraining from fighting Israel, which is true. As you can see, this is someone who changed their mind. This is not even about...
Regardless of the Zionist proposal, they are people who are evil in their ideas. The state of the grandsons of apes and pigs, the Zionist Jew, the murderers of the prophet.
This is all really old. Like, every single one of these quotes is from, like, 2002 and earlier.
Jews invented.
So, as I said, this guy's views evolved over time, obviously. By the end of his life, he believed in a one-state solution with equal rights for all, and he outright said Jewish control conspiracies are wrong.
Legend of the...
And that is true regardless of how much of this shit you go over here. Even if it wasn't true, you still obviously have to understand this in the context of the region, which is Israel, a state doing genocide constantly while saying, we're doing this for Jews, we're doing this for Jews.
Nazi atrocities.
I don't have an issue with them.
I can't believe I'm calling Nasrallah base. I mean, listen. You have to remember something, okay? A lot of these dudes, you see them in their fucking fits, and you hear about, like, some of their attitudes about, like, gay people, for example, and you immediately fucking resort to Orientalist perspectives, not realizing that these motherfuckers are better read than you by a million, okay? Like, it's not a broken clock situation. No, dude. Half of these dudes literally get educated in America and in the UK. What the fuck are you guys talking about?
The more you learn.
This is why it's Orientalist.
Dude,
to literally look at these dudes.
It's like, look at these clips. I'm not going to tell you why they're wrong.
No, they're fucking barbaric baboons, and like sometimes they get this shit right. No, dude, he knows.
Arabs aren't barbaric baboons. How dare you say that, Hassan Piker? I'm going to zoom in on you slowly just to show how dumb that statement is.
It's crazy. He's read more books than you could ever imagine. And also, ultimately, he is regarded as a pretty brilliant person in terms of, like, everything that he's done. You might not agree with his methods. You might not agree with his attitude overall in terms of, like, his opinions on civil liberties and shit like that.
Like, he said gay people should be executed. Dude, this is like every single religious fundamentalist worldwide. Jews, Christians, whatever. It's always funny, as I said earlier, how they resort to this, ooh, they hate gay people. Yeah, dude, no fucking shit. How do you expect there to be any sort of progress on social rights in these countries that are destroyed periodically every 10 fucking years by Israel, the US, and Saudi Arabia? And ultimately, what people like about these groups, what they do support, is limited things that they do, not literally everything about them. Like, for example, blockading Israeli shipping during a genocide. That's a good thing, even if the group carrying out is bad.
But ultimately, this motherfucker has read a shit ton of books.
Knowledge. I feel I've shown you guys enough evidence that Hezbollah is an evil terrorist organization, but have you considered this?
Why isn't Israel an evil terrorist organization? I could make a fucking 10-hour-long video about the crimes of Israel. You wouldn't say that they're an evil terrorist organization, Ethan.
You meant to say is Hezbollah is Muslim. Okay? That's what you meant to say. What you meant to say is they're Muslim. So, of course, as they're Muslim, it's different.
If you're wondering why Hassan's audience is so radicalized, it's because of stuff like this.
Israel, America's greatest ally, the most important country in the world, the most moral nation, the most moral democracy on the planet, is ruthlessly and mercilessly bombing southern Lebanon, including southern
Yes, that's true.
Beirut.
What did Lebanon do?
They just kind of were there. They happen to be Israel's neighbor.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Even as someone who's critical of Israel, this retelling is fucking insane.
They just kind of were there.
Hezbollah started launching rockets into Israel hours after the October 7th.
Hezbollah started launching rockets into Israel at IDF installations. That's what this says. That's what your own source says. Military targets in the context of Israel bombing and attacking fucking Gaza.
Raid began. They launched 12,000 rockets, killed nearly 100 people, including 12 children, and displaced.
Including 12 children? That's a way better ratio than Israel. 44% of Israel's victims in Gaza are children. Given that Israel is the most moral army in the world, I guess that Hezbollah is the most precise army in the world then, 3 times more.
It's 250,000 Israelis from northern Israel. That's what...
It's like Ethan has not seen a single action by any group ever, anywhere, against Israel that he is not against. Like, Israel literally starts doing genocide in Gaza, and rockets are fired from Lebanon in response to that. And he's like, look at these self-evidently bad actions. How could they possibly do that? He's pro-Palestinian, yet he's against every single action against Israel in the context of it actively doing genocide in Gaza. It's such a fucking joke.
Cause them to respond.
What did Lebanon do?
Shit.
He's literally justifying the Israeli genocide of fucking Lebanon. Israel massacred thousands of fucking people, and they're still to this very day occupying like 20% of the fucking country. They've constantly broken the ceasefire. And Ethan's like, how dare you? How dare you leave out this crucial context where Israel started genocide in Gaza and Hezbollah meekly fired some shitty fucking rockets at IDF bases in response?
Why did he ask that? What do I say? Do I tell him the real reason? No, my audience will kill me for being a Zionist. Okay, let's try this.
The real reason? It doesn't matter if Israel invaded fucking Lebanon in response to Hezbollah rightfully taking action against Israeli genocide. If he told the real reason, that would be fine. He should have.
They just kind of were there. Hell yeah, another slick political safe.
I mean, Israel has invaded and attacked Lebanon literally like fucking multiple times over the last couple of decades. They have killed so many people there, tens of thousands minimum. They have leveled intentionally entire neighborhoods, intentionally targeted civilians. Israel literally invented a doctrine called the Dahiyya Doctrine, based around them intentionally attacking civilians during that 2006 invasion of Lebanon. Ethan does not bring any of this up. Ultimately, what Ethan is trying to do here is to legitimize Israel, is to attack, and he's doing this rather than by dealing directly with what Israel does and what it is, by saying that all of Israel's enemies are bad and wrong for doing literally anything against it, and everything about them is objectionable and terrible. And that obviously ultimately serves to legitimize Israel.
By boots on the ground, Hassan Piker. Damn, I'm good.
Even as a pro-Palestine activist, how does lying about this serve your agenda? All it does is further radicalize people. It removes any nuance, and it avoids any...
What's the nuance, Ethan? Do you think that if you take action against an Israeli genocide, your country should be invaded and your people should be massacred? We'd love to get your opinion on that.
Any criticism for his team, and this is what continues to drive this conflict on forever. Hassan is dedicated to pleasing...
What continues to drive this conflict on forever is Zionists like you, who voluntarily moved to an ethno state in order to receive ethnic privileges at the cost of millions of people who suffer for your benefit. That's what continues this fucking conflict on. You, people like you, Zionists, genocidal Zionists.
Radical audience, even at the price of knowingly lying to them for TikTok and Twitter likes.
I'm a propagandist.
Or he's being paid, which, you know, we can't rule out. What a pathetic propagandist piece of shit liar he is.
You're literally being paid by a billionaire Israeli businessman to make this video. A billionaire Israeli businessman who donates to the IDF.
And now, let's move to Hamas, the catalyst for this entire thing. They're the ones that committed this horrible act of terrorism, one of the worst the world has ever...
As I went over earlier, there is no possible way for you to claim that West Bank settlers are valid targets while also claiming that Gaza frontier settlers aren't. That doesn't make any sense at all. Let's tally all of this up and get some percentages. So out of 1,139, 373 were confirmed combatants, security forces. That's 32.75% security forces, combatants, confirmed combatants. Children, 36 children died. That's 3% of the death toll is children. Now, in Gaza, 44% of the dead are children versus 3% on the October 7th attack. 70% of the deaths are women and children. So that means that at most, 30% of the dead are people who could even possibly be combatants, as in just men. And obviously, the vast majority of them are not going to be combatants either. So what would you say? 5%? 10%? So ironically, Hamas, which Ethan Klein calls a terrorist group, seem to be way more discriminating in their targeting than Israel is, especially of children. It's not even close. And that's ignoring the fact that we actually do not know with any sort of real confirmation who exactly killed who. There's very little evidence of that. We know for a fact that Israel killed at least dozens of their own people. We don't know how many. There's very limited direct evidence of, you know, certain people being killed by this party or that party. But what Ethan Klein is going to do here, and I already know this, is going to try to frame this as 1.2k civilians all massacred by Hamas, when the reality is that this was clearly a military operation that absolutely involved war crimes, but certainly far fewer war crimes than Israel usually commits, and they especially avoided targeting children intentionally, as the statistics make very clear. There's also the context of what are these settlements? Why is there like a ring of settlements surrounding Gaza, right? Well, let me tell you what these settlements are. These are settlements that were built there by Israel after 1948, after they had expelled the Palestinians who lived in them to Gaza, to provide a shield wall against the people of Gaza trying to leave and reclaim their land and homes. So these are people like Hamas members, any sort of Palestinian militant group members. These are people like some of the most downtrodden people in Europe, dispossessed. They can often see the land that their families were expelled from Gaza itself. They can see the Israelis living large there. Ethan is going to frame this situation, which is clearly colonial violence begetting retaliation from the colonized victims, as little more than like an inexplicable attack on poor Jewish civilians and nothing else. Even though, as I just showed, the ratio shows that the civilian to combatant death ratio is way better than Israel, and that's even ignoring the fact that a large proportion of these civilian deaths were certainly victims of Israeli-friendly fire. Let's see his narrative.
Seen on October 7th. They are without a doubt the most extreme of all of these terrorist organizations. They are Islamic jihadists.
Islamic jihadists, just like all the scary words. Ooh, Islamic. Look at these pictures that I got of like propaganda spread on like Israeli fucking social media. Like, look at these kids that dress as militants. Yeah. If you were a kid in a genocided ethnic cleanse enclave, a concentration camp, you wouldn't hate your oppressors? God, I fucking despise them. Like, that's the context of this. Kids in the USA fucking play act as American military soldiers all the time. You didn't have an issue with that. This is so much less bad than that. At least these people are fucking oppressed and they want to fight back against their oppressor rather than like mimicking soldiers who go and genocide Iraq or something. The context, like, these people never try to even analyze the shit they use as evidence. They present it to their audience who they presume to be as racist as them, and they presume that they will take this in the way that they take it themselves. No analysis, nothing else. Just look at them. Look at these fucking genocidal kids made genocidal by the evil Hamas. Let me not analyze why Hamas exists, how it came into being. Let's ask a simple question. If there was one state in Palestine, no expulsions, no genocide of Palestinians, would Hamas exist? No, it fucking wouldn't, obviously. This is birth from the situation. This is an inevitable result of your colonialism, the colonialism that you chose to move to Israel to benefit from. And fuck you for removing that context entirely.
That want to convert all of Israel into an Islamic state under Sharia law.
Fired at Israel. Rockets fired at Israel? Wow. How horrible. How horrible that there be some sort of pushback against Israel by their victims, right?
That's their stated goal. Hamas has been on the designated terrorist group pretty much as long as there's been a group. These guys
The USA says they're terrorists? Well, that's it.
Have been suicide bombing civilians before ISIS leaders were even born. They fired 50,000 rockets into civilian populations and performed over
Why? Why does any of this happen, Ethan? Are you ever going to acknowledge the reason why? It's all Israel. All of this is Israel. This is people with limited means. Limited reason to live, even. In a concentration camp. What do you fucking expect? You are literally a white settler on the colonial frontier, pointing at Indians, retaliating against you by raiding your settlements as justification for you hating them, without realizing, or perhaps, yes, realizing, that the fucking reason they hate you in the first place is because what you've done to them. This is the inevitable result of colonialism. Colonialism is a violent enterprise and it breeds violence in response.
100 suicide bombings, killing thousands of civilians. Women are restricted from participating in the workplace and public life. Homosexuality is outlawed, and in some cases, of course, punishable by death. They steal.
Did you know that these people in this poor, downtrodden, genocided enclave, they don't really like the gays very much? Well, I guess they deserve genocide then. I guess their resistance is by default delegitimized. It's the same thing every fucking time, isn't it? This is the circular logic of imperialism. These people are backwards. These people hate women. They hate gays. They even attack our civilians. And they never ask why. Why? Why? Why did this begin in the first place? What did you do to cause the situation? Well, you imperialize them, you've genocided them, you've caused their poverty in the first place, for one, which is what breeds those regressive social attitudes and superstitions. And for two, well, you fucking expelled these people from their own land and homes. You've kept them confined to a concentration camp for the last 70, 80 years. You literally build this ring of settlements around the concentration camp, where the most sadistic settlers in all of the Israeli colonial project choose to live. And these people who know nothing but your violence retaliate with violence against you, and you're like, this justifies even more violence against them.
Foreign aid from the people of Gaza and repurpose it for military.
Oh, fucking please. Let's look at these. Let's just analyze this headline. Since he's not going to go beyond the headline, I'll look at the headline. Hamas caught on video stealing dozens of humanitarian air trucks entering Gaza Strip. No, fucking obviously. Hamas are the government of Gaza. They manage the aid trucks. Once the aid trucks enter Gaza, it is their duty to defend them, to ensure they get to their destination, to distribute the aid. So that's just fucking bullshit. It's not stealing. They're the government. Who else is going to do it if not them? Theft of aid trucks and prices soaring in central Gaza. I guarantee that's not even about Hamas. This one is literally about these armed groups that Israel was allowing to loot aid trucks. It says here armed men. Okay. There were armed men not affiliated with Hamas or anything who have been fighting Hamas, by the way, who curiously started robbing aid trucks right next to Israeli military positions while the Israeli military just let them do it. And in fact, started firing on people who tried to stop them. That's what that article that he cited is about, not Hamas. And the next one is Palestinian Authority says, the Palestinian Authority is just plain a US-Israeli puppet organization, man. I'll go over this eventually in a video on the topic, but right now, everyone fucking knows that the Palestinian Authority are tools of Israel. Israel tells them to jump and they say how high. What they say about Hamas can be discarded out of hand. His evidence is fucking nothing, dude. Give me a break.
Use, or they just sell it back to him. For example, why are all the Hamas leaders billionaires? And let's be
You actually believe that they're billionaires? What the fuck are you talking about?
real. These guys clearly are not skipping any meals. While the people
They're billionaires. These are pictures in fucking Qatar when they go to the fucking negotiations and shit. And they stay in hotels there.
of Gaza languish in poverty. These fine gentlemen are living in
This is utterly fucking insane that he genuinely believes this. He's just like, they're worth $4 billion. What's the source for that, Ethan? You didn't provide a source. Like the entire GDP of Gaza, Ethan, including aid, is $9 billion per year. on average. And you're fucking telling us that you genuinely believe that these guys are worth $5 billion each. Do you have a functioning fucking brain, you stupid motherfucker?
$5 million pen.
Like, I guarantee you, he just Googled like an Israeli propaganda article that said based on fucking nothing, all these people are billionaires. And he just accepted it as facts and did not feel any need to provide us with the article. Classic Ethan. I wouldn't expect any less. Let's analyze some of the sources for these claims that Ethan is making here. That, genius pro-Palestinian, definitely not pro-Israel propagandist Ethan Klein makes here. This comes basically all from like far right and Israeli propaganda media, like Hamas's blood-soaked billions. How does the terror group stay rich? Let's check out what they have to say about Ismail Haniyeh, the current head of Hamas's political bureau. He is said to be worth a whopping $4 billion. He's said to be worth $4 billion, so I guess he is. The Israeli propaganda outlet said so. Then they cite like a random retired Israeli colonel who says they're billionaires. Oh, I mean, if fucking Colonel Moshe Elad says so, it's true. And then they cite Al-Asa, which is the fucking Saudi propaganda outlet that I just talked about. Like, it's like a circular fucking propaganda. Like, the Israeli propaganda outlet cites the Saudi state propaganda outlet with these fucking made-up shit about how they're billionaires. The New York Post says Hamas leaders worth staggering $11 billion. Hey, look, they use the same photo that fucking Ethan Klein did in his propaganda. And literally nowhere in this article does it even actually say where they got these numbers from. They just keep stating it. And that's their source. The same fucking picture that Ethan Klein used. This guy laid down on a hotel bed once in Qatar. I guess he's worth $5 billion then. Once they were on a private jet when they were negotiating in Qatar. Well, that's the only source that I fucking need. He's just the Zionist propagandist. This guy just straight up believes like Der Stürmer propaganda. It's insane, dude.
Houses in Qatar. That lines up with leftist values, or, well, they were billionaires. They're all dead. They're all dead. Hamas is a bunch of psychopathic terrorists of the worst order, and nobody would be crazy enough to defend it.
Oh my fucking god.
No, is this Hassan again? Hassan defended Hamas? Seriously? Okay. We had to make last-minute changes to this part to prevent it from being age-restricted on YouTube. I cut out the footage from Hamas, and I will attempt to narrate it for you as best I can. In this scene, an older woman is walking hand-in-hand with a girl who looks about 12, and as they're getting in the back of the van, one of the terrorists gives them a wave goodbye and says goodbye to them in English. Goodbye. And the two of them smiling wave back.
That's crazy, dog. Dude. Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So basically, even Ethan Klein does not like that in a video like a Hamas militant came off looking good. Dude, no one fucking cares. Honestly, I'm just skipping through this dumb part. We already know. I text him immediately. If you want an actual, real, good narration about October 7th, about the context around it, about how and why it happened, you don't watch Ethan fucking Klein, okay? You watch this video. The Gaza ghetto uprising. You watch this. It has sources, trust me. Trust me, it has sources. It's way better. And it's by someone with a fucking brain. Yes, an Israeli with a brain. Not Ethan Klein, he's an Israeli without one. So I want to skip ahead to like another fucking topic here. Obviously, Ethan Klein is not going to provide us with any actual good commentary on Hamas or anything to do with anything anti-Israel. This is another one of those things where he just shows Hassan talking about like the context around Israeli genocide of Gaza, and he just says it's kind of self-evidently fucking wrong. Oh, this is so tiring. It's the same thing over and over again, man. Is there anything new ever? There's no sources, just clips.
The systematized mass rapes that Hamas dealt on October 7th, not a single bit of that has been verified. And people still run with it over and over.
That's right.
Over and over again.
Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped.
No evidence of a single woman being raped on October 7th beside, I swear to God, 6 months later, I definitely saw this happening from someone who changed their story like 5 times every single fucking time. There's no evidence of this.
Israel had
what Ethan is going to do, he's going to do one of two things. He's going to pop headlines on the screen stating witness claims they definitely saw rape. That, or he's going to cite one of the hostages who later on said that she was sexually assaulted, which is not on October 7th, it was after. But she said she was sexually assaulted while in captivity in Gaza. It's going to be one of those two things. He's going to either just pop up headlines of witness says as if oh, that must be true. We can't possibly critique that. We can't possibly critique why the Israeli state would suddenly get a bunch of witness testimonies of like people linked to themselves most of the time of like the most ridiculous shit ever. Like one of them was like, oh, I swear to God, I sat hiding and I saw like 10 Hamas militants raping a corpse, and then they cut off like her breasts, and they also like skewered her and ripped out her like unborn baby and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, you have to be so fucking stupid to believe this shit. But Ethan Klein is that stupid. Like, it's just made up bullshit by the Israeli state that was desperate to justify its genocide. And Ethan Klein sees this. Like, Ethan Klein, if he was there in the midst of World War II, in the midst of the Holocaust, he would read Der Stürmer and like some story about like a Jew raping a million German, and he'd be like, oh man, that's crazy. I guess they all need to die. That's the level of critical thinking he operates at.
Has a right to defend itself.
What rapes did Hezbollah do? Bro, what rapes did Hamas do? What are you talking about? The Stop Anti-Semitism account that considered me to be anti-Semite of the week has also been hallucinating rapes once again. Doing rape fantasies.
Exactly.
Once again, because they're fucking mentally ill.
Hamas has committed
it's just self-evident
horrific acts of sexual violence and took
women and girls, men and boys slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. It's the deadliest day.
It's literally just citing American and Israeli officials saying shit to justify genocide uncritically. This is supposed to be pro-Palestine.
Doesn't matter if fucking rape
straight up blood libel
happened on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much.
He's right there. Do you think that if there was rape, genocide would be justified? Well, then I have news for you, because Israel systematically mass rapes Palestinians constantly. So I guess you should support the genocide of Israel, right? Even.
So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like,
I can't believe how quickly leftists go from believe all women to Pixar it didn't happen. The vast majority of
which woman should we believe?
People, if not all, who were raped were murdered on the spot, obviously.
Obviously, right? How convenient. There's no forensic evidence, and all the people who were raped were murdered on the spot. We can't name one, though.
Goldstein Almog was kidnapped from her home on October 7th by Hamas terrorists and was held captive for 51 days. Though only 17 years old, she witnessed the murder of her father and sister on that day, and is now speaking out about what she witnessed in Gaza as well in a new documentary by Sheryl Sandberg, Screams Before Silence.
So it's so predictable. It's literally exactly what I said. So the documentary that this interview is about, Screams Before Silence, that Ethan is citing as literally his only evidence here of supposed Hamas mass rape, is precisely what I said beforehand. The person on the screen is like Israel's supposed smoking gun for this mass Hamas rape narrative, and it is this one hostage who claims that when she was hostage, not on October 7th, like when she was taken hostage, she was sexually assaulted. None of the other hostages make this claim at all. Only her. So Ethan Klein is dishonestly presenting someone who claims to have experienced sexual assault / been raped while she was hostage after October 7th as evidence of this mass rape narrative on October 7th, when those two claims are far removed from each other. As the Wikipedia page for this documentary says, that is the only actual, like, half-decent evidence for anyone, any single Israeli being raped since October 7th. Not just during it, but since. This one person who claims that she experienced sexual assault. So the entire documentary here is based around that one claim, and then in order to, like, sort of gish gallop you and imply that that one claim legitimizes the mass rape claims on October 7th, because literally, then the whole documentary is, as you can see from the subtitle, a documentary film on the sexual violence committed by Hamas on October 7th. That's the subtitle, specifically about that. So the strategy of this documentary and of Ethan Klein here is to present the one credible claim of sexual assault, which didn't even happen on October 7th, and happened afterwards, as having happened on October 7th. And then they try to muddy the waters, and they try to, like, throw in a bunch of other shit as a gish gallop, when the incredible, completely uncredible testimonies of rape that did supposedly happen on October 7th are thrown in with that in order to legitimize them as if these are equal claims, as if these are equally credible claims. Like, as you can see here, it says, additionally, the film includes testimonies by members of Zaka and other witnesses about rape and sexual assaults on October 7th. Now, Zaka is an organization that is literally directly linked to the fucking Israeli government. And Zaka is the organization that it was the originator of the classic 40 beheaded babies hoax. That one didn't stick, but the mass rape narrative that they also made up on October 7th has stuck more. So it's like witnesses who claim they saw rape on October 7th, for which there is no photographic or video evidence, for which there is no forensic evidence, for which there is no corroboration from other witnesses. Most of these stories are completely fucking ludicrous. Most of them are coming from obviously unreliable witnesses directly involved with the Israeli state, incentivized to make up fucking blood libel propaganda to justify genocide. So, and even is hanging on to the one actual credible story of sexual assault, which wasn't even from October 7th, to create this narrative of mass sexual violence on October 7th that Hassan supposedly denies. When I don't even think Hassan denies it, though he should, because it didn't happen. There's no evidence for it happen, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, for which you have provided fucking none. But what Hassan was saying was that rape would not legitimize genocide. That's what he was saying. That was all. So it's precisely what I pegged earlier, because there's this horrible lack of mass rape on October 7th that Zionist propagandists like Ethan Klein need for their genocide-enabling narrative, for their blood libel against Palestinians. So the way that he and others have tried to deal with that is, as I pegged him immediately before he even spoke, is by taking the one single credible story of any Israeli being sexually assaulted in any sort of context remotely related to Gaza since October 7th, which happened afterwards, and then using that to like dishonestly gish gallop towards a narrative of Hamas mass rape on October 7th. It is pure blood libel propaganda. Like one fucking sexual assault, one person claiming to have been sexually assaulted after October 7th legitimizes genocide, Ethan Klein? What do you say about the actual proven, far beyond any reasonable doubt, with literal video evidence, Israeli mass rape of Palestinians then? Ethan, does that legitimize the genocide? Does that legitimize October 7th? The CCTV all over the Gaza envelope is fucking massive. You know, they managed to like capture Hamas militants running in there and everything from 1,000 different angles. Yet there's no evidence of sexual violence. Interesting how they didn't manage to recover any forensic evidence of sexual violence either. And in fact, they tried to bury all the bodies and use that as an excuse not to do so. Interesting how most of these testimonies only surfaced, as this one did, literally months later in the midst of Israeli propaganda blitzes, specifically designed around justifying genocide with stories of mass rape. All of that is why Israel has refused to cooperate with the actual UN mission that does have an investigation capacity into the events of October 7th, because there's no evidence for their narrative, and they know that, and they want to keep independent investigations from finding that out. So Ethan Klein is going to cite a UN report. It's the UN report that I debunked earlier with the clip that I played earlier. But that UN report that people like him like to present like it's dispositive evidence didn't have investigative power, and it was just entirely based on taking like Israeli government sources at face value, and also concluded that there was no evidence of systemic mass rape on October 7th anyway. Nonetheless, as the actual Commission of Inquiry that did have an investigative capacity into October 7th noted, a number of speakers condemned the non-cooperation of the Israeli authorities with the Commission of Inquiry and the prohibition preventing the Commission of Inquiry from entering the Gaza Strip. These speakers called on Israel to cooperate with the Commission's mandate. Israel also, just this year, again specifically blocked a UN probe that was specifically into Hamas's sexual crimes from October 7th. As you can see here, this is from January 8th, 2025. So you have to wonder why Israel is so reluctant to allow there to be an actual independent investigation of these claims. Just more reason why we should not take the Israelis at their word on this. Though Ethan, of course, demands that we do. You know, very pro-Palestinian of him, right? Like one hostage saying that she was raped, would that justify genocide? Again, Israel is a country that weaponizes rape, not just against women, but against men. The Israeli military systematically anally rapes Palestinian men constantly. Random Palestinian men, they pull them off the street, they rape them in prison. Fact, I have actual real sources for this. There's video evidence of it. Like, are we supposed to believe that the Israelis with CCTV everywhere could not get any evidence of a single sexual assault on camera from October 7th? And yet we have literal video evidence of the Israelis mass raping Palestinian prisoners, somehow smuggled out of an Israeli concentration camp for random Palestinians that they kidnapped from Gaza. And we're supposed to believe that we can get this evidence of Israelis raping Palestinians, yet there's no evidence of this supposed mass rape on October 7th that you uncritically believe in. It's just such bullshit, man.
Happened on October 7th. Hassan, maybe you would like to call her a liar. Please, go right ahead.
For one, this is not October 7th, Ethan. This is a hostage claiming that she was raped in captivity. And again, as I said, I clocked this beforehand. He was going to present a hostage who claimed being raped as evidence of rapes on October 7th, when that's not what she alleged at all. She alleged that she was raped as a hostage after October 7th. This is not evidence of mass rape on October 7th.
Fucking rapes happened on October 7th. There are dozens of testimonies from witnesses, most of who were
There's not.
hiding and heard or saw it happen. And each week...
If an Israeli says they heard or saw something happen, most of them linked to the government, most of them with incredibly inconsistent testimonies. Look, I'll bring up the article about this. You have to understand that this is just someone just completely uncritically repeating idiotic propaganda. And it's so tiring because I've already dealt with this a million times. This article on MondoWise is a very good dissection regarding the evidence of supposed mass rape on October 7th. I suggest you read it if you want the gist. Basically, there is not a single credible eyewitness account of even a single rape on October 7th. There is